"Don't talk to my mom like that," shouted the little girl at the CEO. At that moment he fell hopelessly in love. A story of courage and unexpected love that will touch your heart. Subscribe, leave a like, and comment where you're watching from. Monday morning began with the kind of chaos that Sarah Johnson knew all too well. The alarm rang at 5:30, cutting through the silence of the small two-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. She opened her eyes, still heavy with sleep, feeling the familiar weight of exhaustion that never seemed to fully lift, no matter how many hours. She slept. Beside her, in the double bed she had shared with her daughter since moving into the apartment 3 years ago, Lily was sleeping soundly, her brown curls spread across the pillow like a messy halo, her lips slightly parted in an expression of peace that Sarah secretly envied. Sarah was 28, but some mornings she felt like she was carrying the fatigue of a lifetime on her shoulders. Her dark brown, almost black eyes reflected determination and distrust in equal measure, the result of years learning that the only person she could truly rely on was herself. Her long, straight, dark brown hair was always tied back in a practical ponytail that she rarely had time to style more carefully. Of average height, her slender body was more a result of a lack of time to eat properly than a choice. She had that upright posture of someone who learned early that showing weakness was a luxury a single mother could not afford. She got up carefully not to wake Lily, her bare feet touching the cold floor of the apartment. The small living room was organized with military precision, every object in its place, nothing superfluous, everything functional. Sarah was like that with everything in life, efficient, controlled, always 3 steps ahead of problems. She had to be. Being a single mother in America was not for the weak, and she had learned that the hard way. She went to the open kitchen, separated from the living room by a simple granite countertop, and began her morning ritual. Freshly brewed coffee filled the small space with aroma. 2 slices of bread in the toaster, one for her and one for Lily. As the coffee maker bubbled, she checked her phone and felt her stomach drop. A message from the daycare, Little World, received at 11 the night before, which she hadn't seen because she had fallen asleep exhausted right after putting Lily to bed. "We regret to inform you that the daycare will be closed on Monday and Tuesday for emergency plumbing repairs. We apologize for the inconvenience and the last-minute notice." Sarah closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, counting to 10 like the therapist she could no longer afford had taught her. She couldn't miss work, not today, not when she was leading the restructuring project for the Human Resources Department at Tech Innovations, one of the largest tech companies in the country. Her direct boss, Carla Thompson, had made it clear on Friday that she expected the preliminary presentation that week. She looked at the clock on the kitchen wall. 5:45. She had exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes to solve the impossible. She called her mother, Grandma Betty, who lived in Asheville, North Carolina, but was spending a few days at her sister's house in Charlotte. The call went to voicemail. She tried the neighbor in the apartment next door, Mrs. Mercedes, a retired woman who sometimes helped in emergencies. The call ended on the first ring. It was 5:50 in the morning. Impossible to wake the lady at that hour for a favor. She tried 3 more emergency contacts she kept in her phone. Nothing. Everyone had their own commitments, their own busy lives in the concrete jungle that was New York. At 6:30, Sarah made the only possible decision. She would have to take Lily to work. "Sweetheart, wake up, my little sugar." She gently touched her daughter's shoulder, her voice carrying that tenderness she reserved exclusively for the girl. "Mommy needs you to be a very good girl. Today, okay?" Lily slowly opened her eyes, those green eyes she had inherited from her father, the only good trait that Ryan Johnson had left behind when he decided fatherhood wasn't for him. The girl had just turned 5, skinny, with the same rebellious curls her mother had as a child, as Grandma Betty always said. She had that talkative and observant way of children who grow up too fast, who learn early to read the moods of the adults around them. "Am I not going to daycare today?" Her little voice was still hoarse from sleep. "No, my love. The daycare is closed for repairs. You'll spend the day with Mommy at work, but you have to promise to be very quiet, okay?" Lily sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes. "Am I going to see where you work? For real?" Sarah smiled, despite the anxiety gnawing at her stomach. "Yes, you are. Now come on, let's get ready quickly." The subway ride from Brooklyn to Times Square took 40 minutes during rush hour. Sarah held tightly to Lily's hand as they were pushed by the crowd squeezing into the packed cars. The smell of sweat, cheap perfume, and morning desperation was suffocating. Lily was dressed in the only nicer dress she had, light pink with white daisies, a bit short because she had grown in recent months. Sarah wore her corporate armor, black tailored pants, a crisp white shirt, a grey blazer, and comfortable mid-heeled shoes that could last the whole day. She had learned early that in the corporate world, appearance was armor. From the station, they took a bus to Fifth Avenue, getting off in front of the imposing 30-story mirrored building that housed the headquarters of Tech Innovations. Fifth Avenue was bustling with hurried executives, street vendors setting up their stalls, the smell of coffee and toasted bread coming from the bakeries and cafes that lined the street. Sarah took a deep breath before entering the building, firmly holding Lily's small pink backpack in one hand and her own in the other. The lobby was all beige marble, with a high ceiling that echoed every step. Huge pots with ornamental plants, a black granite reception desk where 3 attendants in navy blue uniforms controlled access, security cameras in every corner. "Good morning, Sarah," greeted James, the security guard who always worked the morning shift, a friendly man in his 50s. His eyes, however, curiously dropped to Lily. "And who is this little lady?" "Good morning, James. This is my daughter Lily. Her daycare closed for renovations, last-minute emergency. She'll be spending the day with me." James made a sympathetic expression. I understand. It must be tough, you know. My daughter went through that when mine were little." He scanned her access card and smiled at Lily. "Welcome, Princess. You behave nicely up there, okay?" They entered the mirrored elevator. Sarah pressed the button for the 13th floor, where the entire Human Resources and Special Projects Department was located. Lily was mesmerized by their multiple reflections on all the elevator walls. "Mom, look how many us there are here." The girl spun around trying to count. "Yes, sweetheart. Now be quiet. When we get up there, you can sit in the chair next to my desk with the coloring books we brought, remember? And you can't make noise because people are working." "I promise, Mom. I'll be the quietest girl in the whole world." Sarah smiled, but her anxiety didn't diminish. She knew the corporate environment too well to understand that bringing her daughter to work would be seen as unprofessional, regardless of the circumstances, especially being a woman, especially being a single mother. Men could have 1,000 pictures of their kids on their desks, but they never had to bring them to the office. They always had a wife at home handling those domestic issues. The elevator doors opened, revealing the spacious open space of the 13th floor. Grey cubicles with low dividers stretched across the area, interrupted only by glass-walled meeting rooms. The smell was of air conditioning and reheated coffee. Some people were already at their stations, faces illuminated by the bluish light of their monitors. Sarah led Lily to her cubicle, located in the middle of the corridor to the left. She had personalized the space as minimally as possible. A small photo of Lily in a simple frame, a wall calendar, a mug that read, "Best Mom in the World," which Lily had gifted her on Mother's Day. She pulled out the extra chair she sometimes used for one-on-one meetings and positioned it next to hers. "There you go, my sweetie. This is your little corner today. Look, Mommy brought your coloring pencil case." the Peppa Pig coloring book, and that storybook. You stay right here quietly, and if you need to go to the bathroom or get some water, just call me softly, okay?" Lily nodded solemnly, already pulling out the colored pencils from her backpack, her little fingers choosing colors to start. Sarah turned on her computer and tried to dive into work, but she was hyper-aware of every movement her daughter made, every sigh, every little noise. Around her, she felt the curious gazes of her colleagues. Some waved sympathetically, others just looked with that neutral expression that in the corporate world usually meant silent judgment. It was 8:15 when the reception phone rang on the general line. Sarah heard the receptionist's voice, Clarice, echoing through the sound system. "Attention, the CEO has just arrived at the building. Directors, please wait in the main meeting room in 15 minutes. A chill ran through the office. Robert Allen, the CEO of Tech Innovations, was known for being brilliant, relentless, and absolutely straightforward. At 38, he had built a billion-dollar company, transforming a 4-person startup into a tech giant with over 5,000 employees. He was also known for showing up unannounced, asking tough questions, and not tolerating incompetence or disorganization. Sarah had never crossed paths with him personally. She had been working there for 8 months, but he was on the 30th floor, a distant realm where only directors and senior executives had access. She had seen photos in magazine articles, always serious, with slicked-back black hair, impeccable suits, piercing blue eyes that seemed to calculate the worth of each person in fractions of a second. The buzz increased in the office. People were straightening papers, closing social media tabs on their computers, adjusting their postures. Sarah checked to see if Lily was quiet. She was, focused on coloring a unicorn in pink and purple. 15 minutes later, she was engrossed in reviewing employee turnover data when she heard the elevator doors open with that characteristic ding. She didn't look immediately, focused on the Excel spreadsheet on her screen. Then she heard the voice, deep, controlled, but laden with barely contained irritation. "I don't care what the excuse is. I need those numbers today. Today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today." It was someone speaking on the phone, footsteps echoing down the main corridor. "If the finance department can't deliver basic reports on time, maybe we need to reevaluate if the right people are in the right positions." Sarah lifted her eyes and saw Robert Allen enter her line of sight. Tall, he must have been 6 feet tall, broad shoulders that perfectly filled his impeccably tailored navy suit. Short black hair with a few grey strands at the temples that, instead of aging him, gave an air of distinction. Angular face, strong jawline, grey-blue eyes that at that moment were narrowed in irritation. He walked with the confidence of someone who had never had to ask for permission to take up space. He hung up the phone with a sharp motion, tucking it into the inner pocket of his jacket. He stopped in the middle of the corridor, surveying the open space with a critical expression. Then he spoke loud enough for several employees to hear. Can you explain when this office turned into a daycare? I thought I was paying salaries for professionals, not babysitters." The silence that fell over the floor was absolute. Sarah felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. He wasn't looking directly at her. He still hadn't seen Lily sitting quietly in the little chair. But the message was clear. She opened her mouth to respond, but her throat was tight, the words trapped between humiliation and anger. That's when Lily stood up. The girl had dropped her colored pencils. Her green eyes were wide, her cheeks flushed with that bright red that appeared when she was very angry or very embarrassed. She stepped out from behind the cubicle, her little legs moving with determination, her light pink shoes making a soft sound on the carpet. "Sir," her voice came out loud and clear, filled with an indignation that only children can express with such purity. Robert turned, surprised. Everyone in the office turned as well. Lily stopped right in front of him, having to look up completely to face him. The contrast was almost comical, this enormous man in a pristine suit, and that little girl in a pink dress with daisies, her curls bouncing with the intensity of the moment. "Don't talk to my mom like that." Her voice was trembling but firm, her eyes shining with tears of anger. "My mom works really hard. She gets tired every day. She wakes up early and goes to bed late and never complains. The daycare closed, and it wasn't her fault, and you're very rude and ugly to talk about her like that." The silence that followed was so thick that Sarah could hear her own heart pounding, a frantic drum in her chest. She stood up so quickly that the swivel chair hit the desk behind her. "Lily!" Her voice came out louder than she intended, filled with horror and mortification. She rushed over to her daughter, taking her by the hand. "I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry, Mr. Allen. She's just a child. She doesn't understand." But when she looked at his face, the words died in her throat. Robert Allen was looking at Lily with an expression that Sarah couldn't immediately decipher. It wasn't anger. It wasn't the disdain she expected. It was something more complex, surprise, certainly, but also something softer. He slowly crouched down to be at eye level with the girl, resting a hand on his knee for balance. "You're right," he said softly, and his voice was completely different from moments before. "I was rude and disrespectful. I shouldn't have spoken like that without knowing the whole situation." Then his eyes lifted to Sarah, and she saw recognition cross his face like a flash. "I know you," he said slowly, standing up. You were the one who helped me on the highway that night. 6 months ago, my car broke down in the rain." Sarah blinked, confused, searching her memory. The Pinheiros highway, rain, and then the memory came back, vague and fragmented. Returning from a job interview that went nowhere, a black BMW parked on the shoulder with its hazard lights on, a drenched man in a suit trying to see the problem under the hood. She had stopped because it was late, it was dangerous, and she couldn't just ignore someone in trouble. Maybe? I stop to help when I can, but..." She shook her head, still processing. "Look, Mr. Allen, I'm really sorry for her behavior. The daycare closed without warning, and I had no one to leave her with, but it won't happen again. I'll take care of it and..." "Stop." He raised his hand, his expression serious but not harsh. He looked around at the entire office, which was watching with barely concealed interest. "Get back to work, everyone, now!" The open space came back to life with impressive speed, heads bowing to monitors, fingers tapping on keyboards. Robert turned his attention back to Sarah. "Do you have a few minutes? In my office, when you finish organizing..." He glanced at Lily, and there was something kind in that look now. "Your daughter." It wasn't a request. It was a command disguised as an invitation. Sarah swallowed hard and nodded, her mouth dry. "Yes, sir." He waved briefly and walked back to the elevators, leaving behind a trail of expensive cologne and tension. Sarah looked at Lily, who was still flushed but now seemed scared about what she had done. "Mom, did I do wrong?" The little voice was small again. Sarah knelt down, pulling her daughter into a tight hug, feeling tears sting her eyes, but refusing to let them fall. Not there, not in front of everyone. "No, my love," she whispered in the girl's ear. "You didn't do anything wrong. You were very brave. But now Mommy needs to take care of something, okay? Stay here quietly coloring, and I'll be right back." She stood up, smoothing her blazer with trembling hands, and walked toward the elevators, feeling the weight of dozens of eyes on her back. She had no idea what awaited her on the 30th floor, but one thing she knew: her life had changed completely in those last 5 minutes. And for some reason she couldn't explain, her heart was racing not just with fear, but with a strange anticipation that scared her more than it should have. The elevator to the 30th floor was different from the ones Sarah used daily. Lined with dark wood and beveled mirrors, with thick carpet that muffled any sound. It had a biometric reader that only granted access with prior authorization. The receptionist on the 23rd floor, Clarice, a woman in her 40s with red-framed glasses, had to make a quick call before granting passage. "He's waiting for you," Clarice said with a mix of curiosity and sympathy. "Main office, last door on the left when you exit the elevator." Sarah entered the elevator, feeling her legs wobble. The doors closed with a soft whisper, so different from the metallic noise of the elevators on the lower floors. She saw herself reflected in the mirrors, her grey blazer slightly wrinkled from the subway ride. Sarah Johnson had her hair in a practical but ungraceful ponytail, dark circles under her eyes that cheap concealer couldn't completely hide. She felt small, insignificant, completely out of place in that discreet luxury environment. She took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. What did he want? To fire her in person? To reprimand her formally? And that story about the highway, had she really helped the CEO of the company she worked for without knowing? The irony of the situation would be comical if it weren't so terrifying. The doors opened, revealing an environment completely different from the open space where she worked. The 30th floor was silent, with walls covered in rich wood, marble flooring with golden veins, contemporary art on the walls, abstract strokes on huge canvases that probably cost more than Sarah earned in a year. There was only a circular reception in the center, where a blonde assistant in her mid-30s, wearing an impeccable beige tailored suit, observed her with cold, calculating blue eyes. "Sarah Johnson?" The woman's voice was professional but devoid of warmth. "I'm Veronica Lee, Mr. Allen's executive assistant. He is expecting you. Please, follow me." Sarah followed Veronica down a wide corridor. Her 5-centimeter heels made an uncomfortably loud noise on the marble, while Veronica's stiletto heels barely made a sound, the difference between someone who belonged to that world and someone who was just visiting. Veronica stopped in front of a solid wooden door with a discreet sign, "Robert Allen, CEO." She knocked twice, softly but firmly. "Come in." The deep voice from the other side made Sarah's stomach knot. Veronica opened the door and gestured for Sarah to enter. "Do you need anything else, sir?" "No, Veronica. You can close the door, please, and I don't want any interruptions for the next 20 minutes." Sarah entered the room and heard the door close behind her with a soft click. The room was huge. It must have been about 60 square meters. A whole wall of glass offered a panoramic view of New York 5th Avenue stretching out like a pulsating artery, the Museum of Modern Art visible in the distance. The table was made of glass and steel, minimalist but clearly expensive, with only a thin laptop, a leather pen holder, and a framed photo that Sarah couldn't see the back of. Robert was standing by the window, hands in his pants pockets, looking out at the city below. He was still wearing his suit jacket, but had loosened his dark blue tie slightly. From behind, Sarah could see the breadth of his shoulders, the upright posture that demonstrated absolute confidence. "Please, have a seat." He didn't turn around, continuing to look out the window. Sarah approached one of the black leather chairs in front of the table, sitting on the edge, her back straight, hands clasped in her lap to prevent them from visibly shaking. The silence stretched on for long seconds. She could hear the discreet ticking of a wall clock, the almost imperceptible hum of the air conditioning. Finally he turned around. Without the filter of anger from before, Sarah could observe him better. Robert Allen was objectively handsome, the kind of masculine beauty that came from good genes and expensive grooming. His strong jaw had a shadow of stubble, as if he had left home at 5 in the morning and now, close to 9, was starting to show it. His grey-blue eyes had that kind of intensity that made a person feel as if they were being assessed, measured, weighed on an invisible scale. He walked to the table but didn't sit down. He leaned against the edge, crossing his arms, and looked directly at her. "First, I owe you a formal apology," he began, and his voice was different, softer, without the arrogance he had carried in the corridor. "What I said down there was completely inappropriate and unfair. I didn't know the situation, and even if I had, that was no way to address the employees of this company." Sarah blinked, surprised. A CEO apologizing. To her. Thank you, Mr. Allen. And I apologize as well for my daughter's behavior. She is 5 years old and is still learning about—" "No," he interrupted her, but gently. "Your daughter has nothing to apologize for. She put me in my place and I deserved it. Honestly." A small, almost imperceptible smile touched the corner of his lips. "It's been a while since someone had the courage to do that. Most people here agree with everything I say, even when I'm wrong." He pulled out the executive chair and sat down, leaning forward, elbows resting on the table, fingers intertwined. "Now about the highway. You really don't remember?" Sarah furrowed her brow, forcing her memory. "Was it in June? July? I was coming back from a job interview that, didn't go well. There was a man on the shoulder, car trouble. It was raining heavily, like one of those summer storms that flood the city in minutes. I stopped, offered to give him a ride to a gas station or to call for roadside assistance. But honestly, sir, I didn't even look closely at the person. I just wanted to help and move on." "That was me," he said simply. "My BMW broke down. Alternator problem, I found out later. I was coming back from a disastrous meeting with investors, not in the mood to deal with a chauffeur, so I was driving alone. My cell phone had died. I had no way to ask for help. And then a battered 2010 hatchback appeared, and a tired-looking woman offered me a ride." Sarah felt her face heat up. Her hatchback was exactly that, old, battered, but it worked. It was all she could afford. "You took me to a gas station in Midtown," he continued. "We talked on the way. You said you had just come back from an interview, that you were a single mother, that you were trying to find something better to secure your daughter's future. You had no idea who I was. I was soaked, without a jacket, probably looking like some failed executive. When I offered you money for gas and for the favor, you—" "Premium health plan." Marina refused. She said it was just an act of humanity, that everyone needs help sometimes. Sarah was starting to remember more clearly now. The rain drumming on the car roof, the windshield wiper struggling against the water, the fragmented conversation because she was too tired to make much social effort. "When I got home that night," Robert continued, his voice lowering, "I kept thinking about how refreshing it had been. Someone who helped me without wanting anything in return, without knowing who I was, without any ulterior motives. You know how rare that is in my world?" Sarah didn't know what to say. She just watched as he leaned back in his chair, running his hand through his hair in a gesture that revealed a surprising vulnerability. "I tried to find you after that," he admitted. "But you only gave me your first name, Sarah. I knew you worked in something related to human resources, but New York has millions of Sarahs working in HR. Until today, when I heard your voice defending that child, I recognized it. And then I saw you." The silence that followed was thick with unspoken meanings. Sarah felt something strange in her chest, not just the fear of losing her job, but something more confusing, more dangerous. He was looking at her in a way that made her skin tingle. "Miss Johnson," she began, forcing professionalism into her voice. "Thank you for your kindness. But I really didn't do anything special. Anyone would have helped." "No." He shook his head. "Not here, not in New York. People walk by pretending not to see. You stopped, and that—" He paused, searching for words. "That meant more than you can imagine." Sarah clasped her hands tightly in her lap. "Did you call me here just to thank me? Because I need to get back to my floor. My daughter is alone and—" "No." He leaned forward again. I called you here because I have a proposal. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. A proposal. I read your employee file before you came. Up. He gestured to the laptop on the table. Sarah Johnson, 28 years old, graduated in psychology from NYU with a specialization in people management. You've been working here for 8 months as a project analyst in the Human Resources Department. Your evaluations are excellent, punctual, dedicated, delivering results above expectations. Your boss, Carla Thompson, wrote that you are the most competent person she has ever had on her team. Sarah felt a mix of pride and embarrassment. She didn't know Carla thought that of her. The problem, Robert continued, is that this company is growing too fast and losing something essential in the process. We're becoming a cold machine, efficient but soulless. The turnover rate has increased by 23% in the last year. Employee satisfaction surveys show increasingly dissatisfied workers. And when I talk to my directors about this, they show me spreadsheets and numbers, but none of them understand the real problem. He paused, studying her face. You understand. Your daughter understood today, at 5 years old, something that 50-year-old executives can't see, that behind every employee is a person with a life, with problems, with needs that go beyond salary and benefits. Sarah was beginning to understand where he was going, and a chill ran down her spine. I want to hire you as a special consultant directly linked to my department, he said, and there was no hesitation in his voice now. Your job would be to humanize our corporate culture, review policies, create employee support programs, identify areas where we are failing as a company in caring for people. It would be a new position created specifically for this. Starting salary of $18,000 a month, plus expanded benefits, including full daycare assistance and a premium health plan that covers your daughter. $18,000. Sarah currently earned $6,500. That was almost 3 times more. With $18,000, she could move to a better apartment, enroll Lily in a decent private school, have an emergency fund, maybe even buy a car that wouldn't threaten to break down at every corner. But something about that proposal made her deeply uncomfortable. Why me? She asked, forcing herself to think rationally despite the temptation. You have specialized consultants, entire companies that do this kind of work. Why a junior analyst you met by chance? Because you are real. The answer came quickly, intensely. Outside consultants come, with pretty presentations and academic theories, but they don't live our reality. You do. You know what it's like to take a crowded subway, deal with a daycare that closes without notice, to manage alone without a support network. You have both academic training and life experience. That's rare. It made sense. It made too much sense. Sarah felt the temptation growing, but also the fear. This was too good to be true. I need to think, she said slowly. It's a very generous proposal, but it's also a big change. I need to consider the implications. Of course, he nodded, but Sarah saw a flash of disappointment in his eyes. How much time do you need? A few days, until Friday. Friday is fine. He stood up, signaling that the meeting was coming to an end. Sarah, I understand your reservations, but I want you to know this has nothing to do with what happened on the street. I'm not trying to repay a favor or create an uncomfortable situation. It's genuinely about what you can bring to this company. She stood up as well, smoothing her blazer. I understand, Mr. Allen, and I appreciate the trust. Robert, he said, softly. If you're going to work directly with me, you can call me Robert. That created an intimacy that Sarah wasn't prepared to feel. She just nodded and headed for the door. Sarah, he called her when she had her hand on the doorknob. She turned around. He had his hands in his pockets again, that posture that seemed studied but was probably natural to him. Your daughter is lucky, he said, to have a mother who fights so hard for her. It's rare. It's admirable. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. "Thank you," was all she could say before quickly leaving. In the hallway, Veronica was at her station, fingers flying over the keyboard. She looked up as Sarah passed, and there was something calculating in that gaze. Not exactly hostility, but a cold assessment. Sarah felt measured and, somehow, considered a threat. The elevator took an eternity to descend. Sarah leaned her head against the cold mirror, closing her eyes. What had just happened? An hour ago she was terrified of losing her job, and now she had a proposal that would completely change her life. But why did the proposal make her feel as anxious as it did excited? When the doors opened on the 23rd floor, Sarah went straight to her cubicle. Lily was exactly where she had left her, now drawing something that looked like a castle with colorful flags. "Mom!" The girl jumped from her chair. "You took so long. Are you okay? Was that guy mean to you?" Sarah knelt down, hugging her daughter. "No, sweetheart, he was polite. Everything's fine." "Was he the man you helped that day in the heavy rain?" Lily asked with that eerie intuition of children. "I remember you came in all wet and said you helped a man with a broken car." Sarah blinked in surprise. "You remember that?" "I do. You said we always have to help people, even when we're tired. Was it him?" "It was," Sarah admitted. "He's handsome," Lily declared with the brutal honesty of a child. "But he looks sad. Why does he look sad?" Sarah had no answer for that. She just pulled her daughter into another hug, feeling the weight of the day and the proposal pressing down on her shoulders. The rest of the morning passed in slow motion. Sarah tried to work, but her thoughts kept drifting back to that room on the 30th floor, to those intense blue eyes, to the proposal that seemed too good to be true. At lunchtime, she took Lily to the break room on the floor, a space with microwaves, refrigerators, coffee machines, and a few tables. She heated up the lunch she had brought: rice, beans, grilled chicken, and salad. Lily ate the cheese sandwiches Sarah had prepared. "Mom, did you like him?" Lily asked suddenly, swinging her legs in the high chair that was too big for her. "Like who, sweetheart? The handsome guy?" Sarah nearly choked on her rice. "Lily, he's my boss, or kind of a boss. That's not how it works." "But you turned red when you talked about him." "Eat your sandwich," Sarah diverted, feeling her face heat up again. In the afternoon, Sarah received a call from the daycare. The plumbing issue would be resolved that day. Lily could return on Wednesday. Relief and disappointment mixed in a confusing way. Relief because she wouldn't have to bring her daughter again. Disappointment because, well, she didn't want to examine too closely why she felt disappointed. At 5:30, Sarah shut down her computer, gathered her things, and took Lily's hand. While they waited for the elevator, she heard footsteps in the hallway. She turned and saw Robert leaving a meeting room, talking with two directors. He saw her too, and for a fraction of a second their eyes met. He gave a slight wave. She returned it, feeling stupid butterflies in her stomach. On the crowded subway ride home, with Lily asleep in her lap despite the noise and the crowd, Sarah finally allowed herself to think seriously about the proposal. $18,000 would change everything. But it wasn't just about money, was it? There was something in that room, in that meeting, that transcended the professional. The way he looked at her, the vulnerability in his voice when he spoke about that night on the highway, and Sarah knew, with a certainty that frightened her, that accepting that proposal would mean much more than just a new position. It would mean getting closer to a man who in just one morning had made her feel things she swore she would never feel again after Robert Allen, Lily's father, the man who promised to stay and disappeared at the first difficulty. "Not again," she whispered to herself, squeezing Lily against her chest. "I can't allow myself this again." But when she got home and put her daughter to bed, when she was alone in the silence of that small apartment, Sarah took her phone and typed into Google Robert Allen Tech Innovations. The articles that appeared painted a portrait of a business genius, a man who built an empire on his own. But in the photos, even surrounded by people at corporate events, there was always that expression that Lily had identified with childlike precision. He looked sad, he looked lonely, and Sarah, against all her better judgment, felt a desire to find out why. She went to sleep that night, dreaming of blue eyes and rain on the highway, the smell of ozone in the air, and a decision that would change everything. The next 3 days were a torture of indecision. Sarah woke up in the early hours, her mind spinning in endless circles, weighing pros and cons until her head ached. $18,000. It was enough money to completely transform their lives, but at what cost? On Wednesday morning, Sarah took Lily back to the Little World daycare, the 2-story yellow building in East Harlem, with its walls decorated with faded children's drawings and bars on the windows, had never seemed so small and inadequate. The facility was clean, the teachers were caring, but there were cracks in the plaster, old toys in the yard, and only 2 caregivers for 15 children. "Mum, will I see you at snack time?" Lily asked as they said goodbye, holding tightly to Sarah's hand. "No, sweetheart. You'll be here all day, as always. Mummy needs to work." "But it was fun to see you all day yesterday," the girl insisted, her green eyes shining with hope. "And the handsome guy was there too. Can we go back there?" Aunt Mary, one of the caregivers, a black woman in her 50s with hair, an elderly woman with grey hair tied in a bun, always wearing a patient smile, approached. "Hi, Lily. We missed you. Come see. We built a new cardboard house." Lily hesitated, but the promise of something new won her over. She let go of Sarah's hand and ran inside. Sarah stood at the gate for a moment, watching her daughter disappear down the narrow hallway. With $18,000, she could enroll Lily in a private school with English, computer classes, and a real library. Lily would have opportunities that she never had. But what about the emotional cost? Working directly with Robert Allen meant closeness, it meant trust, and trusting men, especially powerful men, was something Sarah had vowed never to do again. At work, Sarah tried to focus on the employee turnover report she needed to submit by Friday, but her eyes constantly drifted to her phone, waiting for what? A call from him? A message pressing for a response? Nothing came. The day passed in normal corporate silence. At lunchtime, Sarah went down to the food court on the ground floor of the building, a space with small white plastic tables, cheap eateries, the smell of grease and mixed spices. She ordered her usual, a lunch plate for $9 with rice, beans, chicken and fries. She sat at a corner table, alone, chewing mechanically while observing the flow of people. "May I sit?" A female voice pulled her from her thoughts. Sarah looked up and saw Patricia, a colleague from her department. Patricia was 32, married, a mother of 2, and one of the few people in the office who treated Sarah with genuine friendship instead of veiled competition. "Of course," Sarah waved to the empty chair. Patricia sat down with her glass meal prep container, colorful salad, grilled chicken, sweet potatoes, always healthy and organized food, unlike Sarah's survival meals. "So," Patricia began, opening her container, "the halls are buzzing with rumors about you." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "What kind of rumors?" "That the CEO personally called you to the 30th floor, that you were alone in his office for over 20 minutes, that he cancelled 2 meetings to meet with you." Patricia took a bite of her salad, watching Sarah with curiosity. "Wow, Sarah, what happened? Are you in trouble?" Sarah poked at her beans with her fork, suddenly lacking appetite. "He offered me a promotion, a new position as a special consultant." Patricia's eyes widened. "Wow, that's amazing. Did you accept?" "I haven't decided yet. What do you mean you haven't decided? It's a promotion. You know how rare it is for women, especially single mothers, to get this kind of opportunity. I know, Pat, but... Sarah paused, trying to put into words the discomfort she felt. Doesn't it seem strange to you? He barely knows me. Why me? Patricia set her fork down, leaning forward. Sarah, can I be honest? You're brilliant. Your reports are impeccable. You understand people in a way that no one else here does. You deserve this promotion. Stop looking for flaws in the gift. It's not that simple. Why not? Because he looked at me in a way that made my heart race. Because I'm afraid of mixing things up. Because the last time I trusted a man's promises, I ended up pregnant and abandoned. It's just not, Sarah deflected, going back to poking at her food. Patricia sighed. You know what your problem is? You don't allow yourself to be happy. Something good happens, and you start looking for the catch. Sometimes, Sarah, good things happen simply because you deserve them. The words echoed in Sarah's head for the rest of the day. Was that it? She was so used to fighting, to surviving, that she no longer knew how to receive. Thursday dawned with a cloudy sky and a threat of rain. Sarah dressed with even more care than usual. Black dress pants, a white button-up shirt, the grey blazer that was her most formal. If she was going to give her answer tomorrow, she wanted to look professional, composed, someone who made rational decisions. But when she arrived at the office, there was a box on her desk, a simple cardboard box unmarked. Sarah looked around. No one was paying attention. She opened it carefully. Inside was a new smartphone. Not the latest expensive model, but a good mid-range one. Underneath the phone, a card with elegant handwritten notes to facilitate communication regardless of your decision. My number is already in your contacts. Ah. Sarah slowly sat down in her chair, holding the phone. Her current cell was a 3-year-old device, cracked screen, battery that lasted half a day. That gesture was thoughtful, practical, but also intimate in a way that made her uncomfortable. She turned on the new device. It was really nice, large screen, fast, already set up and ready to use. She opened the contacts. There it was. Robert Allen, followed by a cell number. Her fingers hovered over the name. Should she send a thank you message? Would that be too professional or too personal? Before she could decide, the phone vibrated. A message. Good morning, Sarah. I hope I wasn't intrusive with the gift. I noticed your phone was having issues the other day. Feel free to use it or not. No pressure regarding the proposal. The decision is yours and will be respected regardless of the outcome. Robert. Sarah reread the message 3 times. He was good with words, professional but not cold, kind but not excessive. Or maybe she was reading too much into the lines because she wanted to see something that wasn't there. She typed and deleted 5 different responses before simply sending, "Good morning, thank you for the phone." That was very kind. The reply came almost immediately. It's a pleasure. How is your daughter? Has she adjusted well to returning to daycare? Sarah felt something soften in her chest. He had remembered. He had asked about Lily, not just out of professionalism, but with genuine interest. She's doing well. She loved going back to see her friends. Thank you for asking. I'm glad. I hope to see her again soon. She brightens any room. Sarah froze, staring at that message. He wanted to see Lily. Again. Why? What? How? You typed, why? But deleted it before sending. Very direct, very revealing of your own insecurities. She put the phone away and forced herself to work, but her mind wouldn't cooperate, constantly drifting back to those messages, to the new phone, to the decision she needed to make. In the afternoon, Carla Thompson, her direct supervisor, called her in for a talk. Carla was a woman in her early 40s, with short, practical hair, always wearing tailored suits in sober colors, efficient, fair, but not exactly warm. "Sarah, I need to talk to you about something." "Delicate." Carla closed the door of the small meeting room where they sat. "The CEO reached out to me yesterday." Sarah's heart raced. "About what?" "About you. He asked me questions about your work here, your ethics, your competence. He made it clear that he is considering hiring you for a special position directly linked to the board." Carla paused, studying Sarah. "Is that true?" Sarah nodded slowly. "He made me an offer on Monday. I haven't responded yet." "I understand." Carla clasped her hands on the table. "I'll be honest with you, Sarah. It would be a huge loss. For my department, you are my best analyst, but it would be selfish of me to try to hold you back when this opportunity could change your life and career." "So you think I should accept?" Carla tilted her head, thoughtful. "I think you should decide based on what is best for you, not on what is best for me or the department. But can I give you some advice?" "Please." "Robert Johnson is a difficult man to decipher. He is brilliant, fair most of the time, but he is also intense. When he focuses on something, whether it's a project or a person, he focuses completely. I've seen several people burn out trying to keep up with him." Carla paused significantly. "Just make sure you know what you're getting into, and set clear boundaries from the start." There was something in that advice that seemed to carry an unspoken warning. Sarah felt a shiver. "Thank you, Carla. I'll consider that." When she returned to her cubicle, she found another surprise. A small bouquet of wildflowers, nothing extravagant, just a simple arrangement of daisies and sunflowers in a glass vase. The card read, "To brighten your day. I know the decision isn't easy. No pressure. R." Sarah looked around. Some people were watching with barely concealed curiosity. She felt her face heat up. This was too much. Beautiful, but too much. It was crossing lines, creating expectations. She picked up the new phone and quickly typed, "The flowers are lovely, but I think it's best if you don't send any more gifts. People are starting to talk." The response took 5 minutes. 5 minutes during which Sarah almost called him, almost went downstairs to return the flowers, almost went into a complete panic. "You're right. It was inappropriate. I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget how the corporate environment can be. The flowers were just a gesture of friendship, but I understand how it might seem. It won't happen again." Sarah sighed, relieved yet strangely disappointed at the same time. He had respected the boundary. That was good. It was what she wanted. So why did she feel a strange emptiness? That night, after picking up Lily from daycare after a quick dinner, instant noodles with sausage because she hadn't had time to cook properly, after bathing her daughter and putting her to bed, Sarah finally allowed herself to think clearly. She sat on the small beige sofa in the living room with a cup of chamomile tea in her hands and made an honest mental list. Pros: money that would change everything. Unique professional opportunity. Chance to make a real difference in the lives of other employees. Work that would fully utilize her skills. Better benefits for Lily. Cons: proximity to a man who left her confused. Risk of mixing personal and professional. Fear of being disappointed again. Pressure of working directly with the CEO. Gossip and judgment in the office. But then Sarah thought of something Patricia had said. You don't allow yourself to be happy. Was it true? She had spent 3 years building walls so high around her heart that she could no longer distinguish between protection and prison. Robert Johnson, the father of Lily, not the CEO, had been her first and only serious relationship. They met in college. He was a year older, handsome, charming, full of promises about the future they would build together. When Sarah got pregnant in her final year of college, he promised they would be together, that he would be a good father. It lasted 3 months, 3 months of pregnancy before he disappeared. Blocked. Her on everything. Vanished as if he had never existed. Sarah later found out, through mutual friends, that he had gotten a job in Miami and started a new relationship, as if she and the baby were just a mistake to be forgotten. That had broken something inside her. Not her love for her daughter, Lily was everything to her, but her ability to trust that someone would stay. That promises meant something, that she was worthy of being chosen. Sarah wiped away a tear that escaped without warning. She hated crying. Crying was weakness, and weakness was a luxury she couldn't afford. But there, alone in the silence of the small apartment, she allowed herself to feel the fear, to feel the loneliness of 3 years carrying everything alone, to feel the dangerous hope that Robert Allen had ignited without even trying. Because the truth, the frightening truth that Sarah finally admitted to herself that lonely night, was that he attracted her, not just physically, though yes, he was objectively attractive, but something deeper. The unexpected kindness, the vulnerability he showed when talking about the marginalized. The way he looked at Lily, how he asked about her, how he genuinely cared. How long had it been since someone cared about Sarah beyond what she could do for them? The new phone vibrated on the coffee table. Sarah picked it up. A message from Robert. "I know it's late. Sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say that, regardless of your decision tomorrow, I admire Marina." Read and reread that message until the words blurred. He knew exactly what to say, didn't he? Or maybe he was genuine. Perhaps he truly saw in her what she fought so hard to believe existed. Worth, strength, something admirable. She typed, and sent before she could second-guess herself. "Thank you. This means more than you can imagine. I'll see you tomorrow with my answer." The reply came almost instantly. "I'll be waiting. Sleep well, Marina." Marina glanced at the clock. It was 11:30 at night. Tomorrow would be Friday, decision day. She went to the bedroom, where Lily was sleeping soundly, her curls spread across the pillow, one arm hugging the faded teddy bear she had received from Grandma Betty. Marina lay down next to her daughter, watching the serene little face illuminated by the moon-shaped nightlight. "I need to do this for us," she whispered, stroking the soft curls. "I need to take the risk for you, for me, because you deserve the best and I'm going to give it to you, even if it kills me in the process." Lily murmured something unintelligible in her sleep and snuggled closer. Marina embraced her, inhaling the scent of baby shampoo and innocence, and made her decision. The next morning, Marina woke with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. There was no more doubt, no more paralyzing fear, just determination. She put on her best outfit, a navy blue dress, with a matching blazer, medium black heels, and her hair down in waves that took 20 minutes to style with the neighbor's curling iron. Light but present makeup, concealer, blush, nude lipstick. She looked in the mirror and saw not a tired single mother, but a professional woman, competent, ready to embrace her life. She dropped Lily off at daycare with an extra long kiss. "Mommy loves you more than anything in the world. Never forget that, okay?" "I know, Mom," Lily laughed, rolling her eyes with that maturity of a child who grows up too fast. "You say, and that every day." At the office, Marina went straight to the phone and called the extension on the 30th floor. Veronica answered on the second ring. "Executive Assistants, Veronica Lee." "Good morning, Veronica. This is Marina Johnson. Could you schedule a meeting with Mr. Allen today? I have the answer he's been waiting for." There was a pause. Marina could almost hear the calculations happening in the assistant's head. "He has a full schedule today, but let me check." Sound of keys clicking. "He can see you at 3 this afternoon. Does that work?" "Perfect. Thank you, Veronica." "Marina?" Veronica's Voice sounded different now, less professional, more personal. Can I give you some unsolicited advice? Sure. I've worked with Mr. Allen for 10 years. He's a good man, but he's also complicated. Just be careful. Sometimes the lines get blurred when working so closely with him. It was a warning, a veiled caution from another woman who clearly had her own history with that man. Thank you for the advice, Marina said carefully. I'll keep it in mind. The hours until 3 dragged on. Marina tried to work but couldn't concentrate. She had lunch without tasting the food. She touched up her makeup in the women's restroom at 2:45. At 3 o'clock sharp, she was back on the 30th floor. Veronica greeted her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He's waiting. You can go in. Marina knocked on the door. Come in. Robert was standing by the window again, but this time he turned immediately when she entered. He was wearing a charcoal grey suit with a white shirt and no tie, the collar open revealing the base of his neck. He looked like he hadn't slept well, subtle dark circles, hair less perfectly styled. Marina. He said her name as if it was something precious. Please have a seat. She sat down, intertwining her hands in her lap to hide the trembling. He sat down too, leaning forward, those intense blue eyes fixed on her with expectation and something more. Hope. So? He asked softly. Marina took a deep breath and let it out. I accept. The smile that lit up Robert's face was genuine and transformative. The lines of tension around his eyes disappeared, his jaw relaxed, and for a moment he looked years younger. Not the relentless CEO, but just a relieved and happy man. Really? He leaned even further forward, his hands open on the table as if he wanted to reach for her but held back. Marina, you have no idea how happy this makes me, not just professionally, but... He paused, seeming to realize he was about to cross a line. I genuinely believe you will make a huge difference here. Marina felt her face heat up under the intensity of his gaze. I hope to live up to expectations. It's a big responsibility. You will. His confidence was absolute, but we need to establish some parameters. First, you report directly to me, but you will have full freedom to investigate, question, and propose changes in any department. Second, we will meet weekly to discuss progress, every Monday at 10 in the morning here in this room. Third, he hesitated. Third, and most importantly, I need you to be completely honest with me. If something isn't working, if you feel pressured, if there's any problem, I want you to tell me directly. Can you do that? Marina nodded, appreciating the clarity. I can, and I have a condition of my own. Go ahead. I want it to be clear to everyone in the company that this hiring is based purely on professional merit. I don't want people to think I got this position for other reasons. She held his gaze firmly, making the subtext clear without needing to verbalize it. Robert understood immediately. His face turned serious. You have my word. I will draft an official statement explaining the creation of the position, the selection criteria, and your qualifications. It will be transparent and professional. Thank you. Is there anything else that concerns you? He asked, and there was a vulnerable opening in the question that surprised her. Sarah hesitated but chose the honesty he had requested. People are going to talk. They are already talking about you calling me here, about the messages, about everything. And I have a daughter to think about. I can't afford to have my reputation tarnished. Robert fell silent for a long moment, processing. Then he stood up and walked to the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city below. When he spoke, his voice was low, but firm. You're right. I was careless. The flowers, the messages. I didn't think about how this would look to others. I was just... He paused, seeming to search for words. I was just trying to be kind. but I understand now that kindness can be misinterpreted when there is a power difference involved. He turned to face her. So let's do this. In the workplace, we are strictly professional. Just colleagues and collaborators. No gifts, no personal messages during business hours. Nothing that could be misinterpreted. Outside the office, he hesitated. Well, if at any point you want to grab a coffee as friends, my invitation is open. But it will always be your choice. No pressure, no expectations. Sarah felt something tighten in her chest. He was setting clear boundaries, respecting her concerns, but also leaving a door slightly open. It was mature. It was respectful. It was exactly what she needed to hear. I agree to those terms, she said softly. Great. He returned to his chair, and the smile came back. More restrained now, more professional. So let's get to the practical details. You start on Monday in the new position. You'll have your own office on the 29th floor, smaller than this one, of course, but private, with a door that closes. Veronica will give you the necessary access and credentials, and he pulled a folder from a drawer. This is your contract. Read it carefully, ask questions, and if you want a lawyer to review it, feel free. There's no rush. Sarah took the folder, feeling the literal weight of the document. I'll read it thoroughly this weekend. Perfect. Robert leaned back in his chair, his fingers lightly drumming on the armrest. Sarah, can I ask you a personal question? You can decline if you want, she tensed slightly. You can ask. Is Lily's father, is he present in her life? The question was direct and painful. Sarah felt the familiar old anger rise in her throat. No, he disappeared when I was 3 months pregnant. He never met our daughter, never paid a cent in child support, never showed any interest. For all intents and purposes, Lily has no father. Robert frowned, and there was genuine anger there, not against her, but for the situation. What kind of man abandons his own child? A coward, Sarah replied simply. But I don't need him. Lily and I manage just fine on our own. I know you do, but it shouldn't have to be that way. No mother should have to carry everything alone. He paused, seeming to want to say more, but holding back. Lily is an incredible child, brave, smart, with an admirable sense of justice. She is that way because of you, you know. Children aren't born like that. They learn by observing. Sarah felt tears welling in her eyes and blinked quickly to push them away. Thank you. She is everything to me. And that is clear in the way you talk about her. Robert smiled gently. My offer includes full daycare assistance, but if at any point you need to bring her to the office again, don't hesitate. I prefer a humane environment where a child occasionally visits, rather than a cold environment where everyone pretends they have no life outside of here. That's very progressive for a CEO, Sarah commented, surprised. I grew up in an orphanage until I was 12, he said abruptly, and there was a raw vulnerability in that revelation. I know what it's like to be the child that no one wants around. I never want another child to feel that, especially not in an environment I control. The silence that followed was thick with meaning. Sarah felt a connection forming, something beyond professional, something dangerously intimate. She needed to leave that room before she said or did something she couldn't take back. I should go, she said, standing up with the folder in her hands. I need to finish some reports before the end of the day, and I want to read the contract carefully this weekend. Of course. He stood up as well, walking around the desk. For a moment, they were very close, close enough for Sarah to smell his cologne. Something woody and masculine. Subtle, yet striking. He extended his hand formally. Welcome to the team, Sarah. I'm looking forward to working with you. She shook his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers, the firmness of the handshake that was respectful yet personal. "Me too, Mr. Allen." "Robert," he corrected gently. "When we're working together, you can call me Robert." "Robert," she repeated, and the name felt strange and intimate on her tongue. Sarah left that room with her heart racing and a feeling that she had just jumped off a cliff without knowing exactly where she would land. The weekend passed in a blur. Sarah read the contract 3 times, looking for pitfalls, strange clauses, anything that indicated ulterior motives. But the document was clean, fair, even generous. $18,000 a month. Full benefits including daycare assistance of up to $2,000 a month, premium health insurance, increased meal vouchers, profit sharing. There was even a clause about flexible hours for family emergencies. On Saturday afternoon, while Lily watched cartoons on the small TV in the living room, Sarah called her mother. "Mom, it's Sarah." "Daughter," Grandma Betty's warm voice came through the line. "I've missed you. How are you both and my granddaughter?" "We're fine, Mom. Lily's here watching Peppa Pig. Mom, I need to tell you something." Sarah explained about the promotion, the new salary, the opportunity. She edited some parts. She didn't mention the incident with Lily defending her. She didn't mention the flowers or the messages, just the professional facts. Grandma Betty. Celia remained silent for a moment after Sarah finished. "Honey, this is wonderful. But, that man, the CEO, is he single?" Sarah felt her face heat up. "Mom, that has nothing to do with anything." "Sarah Helena Johnson, I'm your mother. I've known you since you were younger than Lily. There's something in your voice when you talk about him. I'm just asking you to be careful. Rich, powerful men. They don't usually have good intentions with women in our situation." "Our situation?" Sarah felt a pang of irritation. "And what is our situation, Mom?" "You know what I mean. Single mother, no wealthy family, no connections. To men like him, women like us are temporary fun. We're not the type they take home." The words stung because they touched on deep insecurities that Sarah preferred not to examine. "It's not like that, Mom. It's just work, purely professional." "Then why are you on the defensive?" Grandma Betty asked gently. "Honey, I'm not judging. I just want you to protect your heart. And most importantly, protect Lily's heart. She's already grown up without a father. She can't get attached to someone who won't stay." "I know, Mom. I know." Sarah ended the conversation shortly after, feeling restless. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Sarah stayed awake thinking about her mother's words. Was Grandma Betty right? Was she fooling herself into thinking this was just professional? And more importantly, was she putting Lily at emotional risk? Sunday dawned hot and humid, typical of New York at the end of summer. Sarah decided to take Lily to Central Park. They needed fresh air and distraction. They took the crowded subway even on a Sunday, getting off at the 42nd Street station and walking to the park. The park was a green oasis amidst the concrete. Old trees, a pond with ducks, colorful playgrounds where children ran and shouted with joy. Sarah bought a popcorn cart to share with Lily, and they sat on a bench under the shade of a huge fig tree. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Lily suddenly spoke, swinging her legs that couldn't reach the ground. "Of course, my love." "Why don't I have a dad?" Sarah felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. Lily had asked this before, but never so directly. "You know the answer, sweetheart. Your dad, he couldn't stay with us." "But why? Did I do something wrong?" "No!" Sarah pulled her daughter into a tight hug. "Never, ever think that. You're perfect. Your dad, he just wasn't ready to be a father. But that's his problem, not yours. Do you think he'll come back one day?" Sarah thought carefully about her answer. She didn't want to lie, but she also didn't want to destroy childhood hopes. "I don't know, my love. But what I do know is that we have each other, and that's what matters. We're a team, remember. Team Sarah and Lily, Lily recited, smiling through the tears that threatened to fall. That's right. And no team is better than ours. Lily was quiet for a moment, thoughtfully chewing popcorn. Then, the cute guy from work, Robert, did he like me? Sarah tensed. Why do you ask that? Because he smiled when he saw me. A real smile, not those fake smiles adults give to kids when they don't want us around. And he asked my name, and he seemed to really care about the answer. Sarah was impressed by her daughter's perception. I think he did like you. You were very brave defending Mommy. He likes you too. Lily. He does. I saw the way he looked at you. It's the way the prince looks at Cinderella in the movies. Sarah laughed, despite her discomfort. Real life isn't a Disney movie, my sweet. Robert is my boss. It's different. But he could be more, Lily insisted with the stubbornness of a 5-year-old. He could be like a dad. Not a real dad, but like a pretend dad that becomes real. Sarah's heart ached. Honey, we can't think like that. We can't create expectations about people. They leave and we get sad. Like my dad left? Yes, but Robert is different. I feel like he's different. Sarah had no answer for that, because deep down, a dangerous and hopeful part of her felt the same way, and that terrified her. Monday came too quickly. Sarah woke up with a knot in her stomach, that mix of excitement and pure terror. She chose a navy blue dress with a black blazer, professional but not austere, feminine but not provocative. She dropped Lily off at daycare with promises to pick her up earlier, now that she would have a more flexible schedule. When she arrived at the building at 8:30, James at the reception greeted her with a huge smile. I heard about the promotion. Congratulations, Sarah. You totally deserve it. Thank you, James. But in the elevator, 3 executives Sarah didn't know personally got on. They didn't know she understood English fluently. Is this the new special consultant? One of them murmured to the other in English, believing she wouldn't understand. Yeah, cute. I bet I know what the special qualification was that got her the position. Stifled chuckles. Sarah kept her face neutral, watching the floor numbers light up, but inside she was boiling with humiliation and anger. The 29th floor was a middle ground between the open space of the 23rd and the luxury of the 30th. There were individual offices with glass walls, more privacy but still a sense of transparency. Veronica was waiting at the reception. Good morning, Sarah. Your office is right here. She led her to a corner room with windows overlooking Fifth Avenue. It wasn't huge, maybe 15 square meters, but it had a decent work desk, an ergonomic chair, an empty shelf waiting to be filled, and a low table with 2 armchairs for informal meetings. Your computer is already set up with all the necessary access. Mr. Allen asked you to come up at 10 for the first alignment meeting. Thank you, Veronica. Sarah entered the office, placing her bag on the desk. She had her own space, her own room, with a door that closed. The 2 hours until the meeting passed quickly as Sarah explored the systems, read internal policies, and took notes on what she needed to investigate first. At 10 sharp, she was knocking on the door of the 30th floor. Robert greeted her with a professional smile. Sarah, welcome officially. He was even more formal today, a black pinstripe suit, dark grey tie, and an upright posture. The CEO in full mode. They spent the next 2 hours discussing strategies. Robert had data, turnover rates by department, satisfaction surveys, HR complaint records. Sarah asked sharp questions, took notes on everything, already starting to see patterns. The biggest issue is in the operational sectors, she observed, studying the graphs on the tablet he had provided. Customer service, logistics, IT, the people who keep the company running but are rarely recognized or heard. Exactly. Robert leaned forward. And how do you suggest we address this? I need to go there. Not on official visits with HR escort. I need to show up unannounced, talk to the real people, understand their day-to-day, have lunch with them in the break room, not in fancy restaurants. Hear what they really think when they're not being watched. Robert smiled, and there was genuine admiration in that smile. You're going to be amazing in this position. You can do exactly that. You have my full authorization to go wherever you want, talk to whoever you want, without needing prior permission. The meeting ended around noon. When Sarah stood to leave, Robert called her back. Sarah, one last thing. There will be resistance, especially from some directors who don't like change, and they will probably question your authority, your qualifications, your motivations for being in this position. She looked him directly in the eye. I'm ready for that. I know you are. I just wanted you to know that you have my full support. If anyone disrespects you, I want to know. Immediately. I can take care of myself, Sarah said firmly. I know, but you shouldn't have to do it alone. He held her gaze for a moment too long to be just professional, then looked away. Good luck on your first official day. Sarah left that room with a racing heart and a growing certainty that she was about to embark on the most challenging and potentially dangerous journey of her life, and not just professionally. The first 3 weeks in the new position were a whirlwind of discoveries, frustrations, and small victories. Sarah dove into the work with the intensity of someone who knew she was being watched and judged at every move. She woke up at 5 in the morning, dropped Lily off at daycare at 7, arrived at the office by 7:30, always the first to arrive, proving she wasn't just the CEO's protégé who landed an easy job. Her strategy was simple but effective. Show up unannounced in different departments, sit at the break room tables during lunch, ask genuine questions, and most importantly, listen, really listen, not just collect data for reports. It was on a rainy Tuesday in March that Sarah found herself in the basement of the building, in the logistics department, a large, cold space with a low ceiling, buzzing fluorescent lights, and rows of old computers where employees processed orders, tracked deliveries, and dealt with customer complaints. "Can I sit here?" Sarah asked a woman in her 40s with curly hair tied back in a ponytail who was eating a takeout box of rice and chicken in the tiny break room. The woman looked up, surprised. Her badge read, Valerie Smith, Logistics Analyst. "Sure, it's public," she said cautiously, clearly wondering who this business-dressed woman was that she didn't recognize. Sarah sat down with her own takeout. She had started cooking at home again, saving extra money for the apartment move she was planning. "I'm Sarah from the special consulting team. I'm conducting a survey about the work environment. Can you tell me a bit about what it's like to work here?" Valerie let out a bitter laugh. "Do you want the official version or the truth?" "The truth, always. The truth is that we're invisible. We work down here, literally in the basement, processing hundreds of orders a day. When something goes right, no one notices. When something goes wrong, we're to blame. Our computers are from 2015, freezing all the time. We have no windows, the air is bad, and our supervisor—" Valerie paused, measuring her words. "Let's just say he has favorites, and if you're not one of them, your life becomes hell." Sarah made mental notes. "Your supervisor is Mark Thompson. He's been here for 15 years, untouchable because he knows the system inside and out. But he's a misogynist jerk who only promotes the pretty girls who flirt with him and treats the rest of us like trash." "Have you reported this to HR?" Valerie laughed humorlessly. "I have, 3 times. Do you know what happened? Nothing. Mark has friends on the board. It's us, the frontline employees, against the establishment. We never win this battle." Sarah felt anger boiling in her chest. "And what if I told you that I have direct authority from the CEO to investigate and implement changes?" Valerie studied her with skepticism. "I'd say you seem sincere, but I've seen many consultants come in here, promise changes, and in the end, nothing changes. The system protects those at the top, always." "Not this time," Sarah promised. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll need you and others to be willing to give formal testimonies, with protection against retaliation. Can you gather a group?" Valerie hesitated, but something in Sarah's determined gaze must have convinced her. "I can. But if this blows up in our faces—" "It won't. You have my word." That night, Sarah worked until 9, compiling evidence. She spoke with 12 employees from the logistics department, all with similar stories: bullying, discrimination, inadequate working conditions, toxic management. Finally, she took the subway back home, exhausted but determined. Lily was already asleep when she arrived. Grandma Betty, the neighbor who sometimes looked after the girl in emergencies, was watching a soap opera in the living room. "She had dinner just fine, took a bath and went to bed at 8, Betty reported. "But Sarah, my dear, you can't keep going like this. You're getting too thin, with dark circles under your eyes. This new job is consuming you." "I know, Grandma Betty, but it's temporary. Once I settle into the position, it will get easier." Sarah paid the $50 they had agreed on. It was all she could afford, and Betty accepted more out of kindness than necessity. After the neighbor left, Sarah dragged herself to the bedroom. Lily was sleeping soundly, hugging her teddy bear. Sarah lay down next to her daughter, feeling the familiar guilt tighten. She had been seeing so little of Lily lately. She left before her daughter woke up and returned after she had gone to sleep. On weekends, she tried to make up for it, but she noticed the girl was quieter, more withdrawn. "I'm sorry, my love," she whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. "When this phase passes, it will be better. I promise." On Friday morning, Sarah had a meeting scheduled with Robert at 10. She prepared a complete presentation: data, testimonials, anonymized, photos of the basement conditions, comparisons with market standards. She was nervous but confident. She arrived on the 30th floor punctually. Veronica greeted her with that calculating look she always had. "He's on a call but asked you to wait inside. You can go in." Sarah entered the room. Robert had his back to the door, speaking on the phone by the window. He was wearing only dress pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, the tie abandoned on the table. He looked tired. "I don't care what the investor prefers. I'm not cutting the scholarship program to increase dividends. It's non-negotiable." His voice was tense, irritated. "Marcus, you're my CFO. Your job is to find the money, not to tell me what I can or cannot do with my company. Find a solution, or I'll find a new CFO." He hung up abruptly and ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. Then he noticed Sarah standing at the door. "Sarah." His face softened immediately. "I'm sorry, come in please, tough day." "I can imagine. Do you want to reschedule? I can come back later." "No." He pointed to the chairs. "I need to hear something that isn't about money and investors. Sit down, please. I want to hear what you found." Sarah sat down and opened her laptop, connecting it to the large monitor on the wall. For 40 minutes, she presented her findings. Robert listened in absolute silence, his face growing progressively more serious, his jaw increasingly tense. When she finished, he stared at the last photo on the screen, the basement with its flickering fluorescent lights, old computers, no windows, no proper ventilation. "How did I not know about this?" he asked, and there was genuine anguish in his voice. "How did this go on for so long without me knowing?" "Because you're on the 30th floor," Sarah said gently but honestly, "and the people who work in the basement are invisible to those at the top, not out of malice, but Because the systems are designed so that certain things don't reach you. Robert stood up and began pacing back and forth, furious energy emanating from him. Mark Thompson, I know him. He attended some general meetings, always seemed competent. Never, he paused, looking at Sarah, never thought to investigate what was happening below the surface. It's not your fault, it's systemic. But it is my responsibility. He slammed his hand on the table, making Sarah jump. I'm sorry, he said immediately, realizing he had startled her. It's not about you. It's about me. I built this company, preach values of respect and dignity, and meanwhile, people are being harassed and mistreated in my own buildings. Sarah stood up, approaching him carefully. Robert, you can't know everything. That's why you hired me. And now that you know, you can do something. The question is, will you? He looked at her, those blue eyes burning with determination. I will. Mark Thompson will be fired by the end of the day. I want HR to open a formal investigation with everyone involved. I want a complete reform plan for the basement on my desk by Monday, and I want you to personally oversee it, ensuring that the people down there are heard in the process. There will be resistance, Sarah warned. Mark has connections. People will defend him. Let them defend him. My company, my rules, and the first rule is no one will be mistreated or harassed while I'm in charge here. He picked up the phone. Veronica, connect me with legal and HR now. In the next 2 hours, Sarah watched Robert work. He was relentless but fair, listening to the legal department's arguments about the dismissal process, but not accepting excuses. When the HR director tried to defend Mark, he's a 15-year employee. We can't just... Robert coldly interrupted him. 15 years of harassing people, you mean? That's not a defense. It's evidence of our negligence. He leaves today, with adequate compensation to avoid a lawsuit. But he leaves. And if you have a problem with that, Charles, maybe you need to reevaluate whether you're in the right position. Charles, a man in his 50s used to being the king of his department, turned red, but backed down. Understood, sir. When they finally found themselves alone in the room again, it was already past noon. Robert threw himself into a chair, rubbing his face with his hands. Are you okay? Sarah asked softly. I'm angry, mostly at myself. I should have created better channels for this kind of thing to reach me. He looked at her. You did an amazing job, Sarah. 3 weeks in, and you're already uncovering problems that have existed for years. It's my job. It's more than that. You genuinely care. That makes a difference. He stood up, moving closer to the window. Come here. Sarah approached, standing next to him. Down below, New York was bustling. Cars, people, life happening at a frantic pace. Sometimes I feel... Here looking, he said calmly, and I think about how each person down there has a story, problems, dreams. And in here, he gestured to the building, we have 5,000 employees, 5,000 stories that I will never fully know. But I can create an environment where those stories can be lived with dignity. That's why you're here. Sarah felt something stir in her chest. There was so much sincerity in him, so much vulnerability carefully hidden beneath the armor of a successful CEO. Can I ask you a personal question? She said, before thinking better of it. Always. Why are you single? Someone so... She paused, realizing too late the dangerous ground. Someone so successful, stable. There must be women interested. Robert smiled sadly. Interested in the CEO? In the money? In the status? Yes, many. Interested in the Robert who grew up without family, who doesn't know how to celebrate a birthday because he never had one for real, who has nightmares about going back to the orphanage. Those are much rarer. Robert. No, he turned to face her. You asked, I'll answer. I've dated a few times. relationships that seemed good at first. But there always came a point where I realized they were in love with the idea of me, not who I really am. And when they started to see the cracks, the broken parts, they left. I learned not to open up too much. "That's lonely," Sarah said softly. "It is, but safe. I can't be rejected for what I don't show." He gave a crooked smile. "Pathetic, right?" "No, it's human and completely understandable." They stood there side by side at the window, the comfortable silence between them. Sarah felt the dangerous urge to touch his hand, to offer physical comfort, but she held back. Lines, boundaries, professionalism. "And you?" Robert asked. "Why are you alone? I imagine there are men interested." Sarah laughed humorlessly. "Men interested in a single mother with emotional baggage and a 5-year-old child? Not exactly. Most run away when they find out about Lily. The few who stay they want the sexy version of the single mother from the movies, not the reality of waking up at 5 in the morning and dealing with a sick child's vomit." "Her father really is an idiot," Robert murmured. "He is, but he gave me Lily, so I can't completely lament." Sarah paused. "She asked about you the other day." His eyes lit up. "Asked? What?" "She said you looked sad, and asked if you could be like a father to her. Not for real, but pretend that becomes real." Those are her words. Robert became very quiet. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse. "And what did you say?" "That real life isn't a fairy tale, that we can't create expectations about people." "But what if the person wants to meet those expectations?" He turned fully to her now, very close. "What if it's not expectation, but a real desire?" Sarah's heart raced dangerously. They were too close, too intimate, about to cross lines she had sworn not to cross. "Robert," she began, but was interrupted by the door opening abruptly. Veronica entered without knocking, stopping short at the sight of them so close. Her eyes narrowed, almost imperceptibly. "Sorry to interrupt," she said in a cold voice, "but Marcus is on the line, says it's urgent about the budget." Robert stepped away from Sarah, professionalism returning like a mask. "Thank you, Veronica, I'll take it." He looked at Sarah. "We need to finish this conversation later." Sarah nodded, quickly grabbing her laptop. "Sure, I'll implement the changes we discussed. I'll send you the report by Monday." She passed by Veronica on her way out, feeling the assistant's gaze piercing her back like invisible daggers. In the elevator alone, Sarah leaned her head against the cold mirror and let out a shaky sigh. Something had almost happened. Right there in that room, they had almost crossed the line from professional to personal. And the scariest part was that Sarah had wanted it, desperately. Her phone vibrated. Message from Robert. "Sorry for the almost. I lost control for a second. It won't happen again." Sarah typed and deleted 5 different responses. Finally sent, "No problem. It was my fault too. Let's keep things professional." "Yes, professional." Pause. Then, "But can I confess something? It's been much harder than I imagined." Sarah stared at that message for a full minute. Then, against her better judgment, she typed, "Me too." She got off the elevator on the 29th floor and went straight to her office, closing the door and leaning against it. She needed to get a grip. She needed to focus on work, on her daughter, on the future she was building. But when she closed her eyes, all she saw were blue eyes and the unspoken question, what if it's not expectation, but a real desire? Sarah knew she was on dangerous ground. She knew she should back off, create distance, protect her heart and Lily's. But a stubborn and hopeful part of her whispered, what if this time it's different? What if he really stays? It was a dangerous question, a question that could destroy her. But it was a question that, like it or not, she would need to answer soon. April arrived, bringing with it the first chills of autumn in New York and a growing tension that Sarah couldn't ignore. The dismissal of Mark Thompson sent shockwaves through the company. As expected, there was resistance, directors questioning the decision, rumors running through the halls, judgmental looks following Sarah wherever she went. I heard she convinced the CEO to fire Mark because he didn't hit on her. Sarah overheard a female employee comment in the women's restroom, unaware that she was in a stall. I heard she has the CEO wrapped around her finger. You know how it is, single mother, vulnerable. He must feel sorry for her. Sarah stood frozen inside the stall, her nails digging into her palms, taking deep breaths to control her anger. When she emerged, the two women, both from the administrative area, whom she recognized by sight, turned red and hurried out without washing their hands. This kind of situation had become routine. Comments, whispers that stopped when she entered the rooms, fake smiles, the veiled hostility that Sarah knew all too well, the hostility directed at women who dared to occupy spaces that others believed they didn't deserve. But there were also the good moments. Valerie and other employees from the logistics department approached her personally to express their gratitude. The basement was being renovated, glass windows being installed to bring in natural light, new computers arriving, a new ventilation system being implemented. "You really made it happen," Valerie said on a Thursday, tears in her eyes. "I've worked here for 8 years, and it's the first time someone truly cared about us." It was for these moments that Sarah endured the malicious whispers and judgmental glances. Her weekly meetings with Robert on Mondays at 10 in the morning became the part of the week she looked forward to and feared simultaneously. She looked forward to them because they were the 2 hours where they could talk without masks, where he sought her opinion on everything, where he treated her as a genuine intellectual partner. She feared it because each week it became harder to maintain emotional barriers. On a particularly cold April morning, Sarah arrived at his office and found him visibly shaken. He was sitting in his chair, staring intently at a framed photo that usually faced him, but was now on the desk where she could see it. It was a boy of about 12, too thin, with serious blue eyes for his age, standing next to an older man in a suit. Neither of them smiled. They didn't touch. It was a strange photo, formal, distant, more like documentation than a family memory. "Is that you?" Sarah asked softly, sitting down. Robert picked up the photo, his fingers tracing the frame. "The day of my adoption, 12 years, 3 months and 17 days. Saul Allen took me out of St. Vincent's orphanage that day, changed my life completely. He looks serious." He was. Saul didn't adopt out of love or desire for family. He was 62, never married, built a business empire but had no heir. He saw me during a visit to the orphanage. He donated money regularly and decided I had potential. Robert spoke the word with bitterness. He gave me everything, education at the best schools, courses abroad, mentorship in business, but he never gave me affection, never a hug, never an "I'm proud of you." Just expectations, always more expectations. Is he still alive? He died 5 years ago. Heart attack, left everything to me. The company, the properties, the investments. And do you know what the last thing he said to me in the hospital was? Robert laughed humorlessly. He said, "Don't waste what I've built. Prove I was right about you." Not a "I love you," not a "it was good to have you." Just one last demand. Sarah felt her heart tighten. "Robert, I'm so sorry." "You don't have to be. I turned out fine, didn't I? I took what he left and tripled it. Expanded the company, created jobs, built something bigger. But sometimes I think—" He paused, his voice lowering. "Sometimes I think he was right, that I'm good at business, at results, but not at the things that really matter. I don't know how to be human, how to make real connections." "That's not true," Sarah said firmly, leaning forward. You care about the employees enough to hire someone to humanize the company. You fired a man with connections because he was harming others. You ask about my daughter every week genuinely, not just out of politeness. That's being human, Robert. That's making connections. He looked at her for a long moment, raw vulnerability etched on his face. You make me want to believe that. The air in the room grew heavy, dense with unspoken things. Sarah knew she should pull back, change the subject, return to the professional, but she couldn't. "Can I tell you a secret?" she said softly. "I'm also afraid of not being good at the things that matter. Every night I look at Lily sleeping and think, am I doing this right? Is she going to grow up traumatized because she doesn't have a father, because her mother works too much? Because I can't give her everything she deserves? Sarah, you're an amazing mother. Anyone can see that. But it doesn't feel like enough. It never feels like enough." She felt tears burning but held them back. Yesterday she drew a picture at daycare. The teacher showed it to me when I picked her up. It was a family, mother, daughter, and a tall male figure beside them. When I asked who it was, she said, "It's Uncle Robert. I drew our family if you were married to him." Robert froze completely. "She... what?" "I know. I should have cut that off at the root, explained better that you're just my boss, that we're only colleagues. But Robert..." Sarah looked at him with an honesty that terrified her. "I couldn't, because a part of me also wants to believe in that fantasy, and it's so wrong, so dangerous. But I can't make it stop." The silence that followed was so intense that Sarah could hear her own heart beating. Robert slowly stood up and walked around the desk, stopping in front of her. Sarah stood up too, and suddenly they were very close, feeling each other's warmth, seeing every detail. The shadow of stubble on his chin, the discreet dark circles. That makeup couldn't completely hide on her. "Sarah," he said, his voice hoarse, "I need to tell you something, and then you decide what to do with this information." "What?" "I'm in love with you." The words came out simple, direct, devastating. "Probably since that night on the highway, definitely since your daughter put me in my place defending you. I wake up thinking about you. I go to sleep thinking about you. Every Monday meeting is the highlight of my week because I get to see you, talk to you, be near you. And I know it's inappropriate. I know it jeopardizes our professional relationship. I know that you... There are 1,000 reasons not to respond, but I needed you to know. I needed to stop pretending." Sarah couldn't breathe. The words she secretly wanted to hear and terribly feared were there, exposed between them like an abyss that once crossed would have no return. "Robert, You don't have to answer now," he interrupted her. "I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just being honest because you were honest with me, and because I can't pretend anymore that what I feel is just professional respect." "But I'm scared," Sarah whispered, and suddenly the tears she had been holding back began to fall. "I'm so scared. The last time I trusted, when I believed in promises, I ended up alone and pregnant. And it's not just me now. It's Lily too. If she gets attached to you and you realize that's not what you want, that we're too much baggage, too much complexity." "Sarah, look at me." Robert gently took her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his gaze. "I'm not him. I'm not the coward who abandoned you, and Lily is not baggage. She's amazing, and any man would be lucky to be a part of her life, of both your lives. How can I know you won't change your mind? That when the novelty wears off, when you see how hard it really is, you won't just leave?" "You can't know," he admitted, and there was a brutal honesty in that. "Just like I can't know that you won't realize you deserve someone better, someone who knows how to be a real family, who doesn't have all the traumas and dysfunctions that I have. But Sarah..." He wiped her tears with his thumbs. The touch so gentle that it made her heart ache. But we can try, we can take it slow, carefully, building something real. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling his hands on her face. The warmth, the solid presence. She wanted to believe. God, how she wanted to believe. What if it doesn't work? She whispered. What if we try and hurt Lily in the process? Then we'll do everything to ensure that if it doesn't work, it's in the most careful way possible. Talk to her, explain, make sure she knows it's not her fault. But Sarah? He opened her eyes with a gentle touch. What if it does work? What if we become the family we both always wanted but never had? It was a dangerous question. A question loaded with terrifying and wonderful possibilities. Before Sarah could respond, before she could think better, before fear could win, she leaned in and kissed him. It was a soft kiss at first, almost hesitant, lips touching lips, exploring, asking for permission. But then his hands slid from her face to the back of her neck, pulling her closer, and the kiss deepened. Years of loneliness and repressed desire exploding between them. Sarah felt herself melting against him, her hands rising to his hair, losing herself in the sensation, the smell, the taste. It was intense and overwhelming and completely perfect. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. Robert rested his forehead against hers, his fingers still entwined in her hair. "That was," he started. "A mistake," Sarah automatically finished, panic beginning to rise. "It was a mistake. We shouldn't—" "No," he held her firmly, not letting her pull away. "It wasn't a mistake. It was the most right thing that's happened in a long time. But I understand if you're scared. I am too. Robert, you have to understand, I can't just dive into this. I need to think about Lily. I need to be sure. I know, and I'm not asking you to dive in. I'm asking you to give it a chance. Dinner, just the two of us, outside the office. No pressure. A real date where we can talk about this without glass walls and people watching us." Sarah bit her lip, her mind spinning. "And work. People are already talking. If they find out, then we make it official. I'll report to the board that we're developing a relationship. Implement the transparency protocols I promised. You can report to another director if that makes you feel better. We'll do it right, Sarah. Not hidden, not shameful. Right. Would you do that? Expose your personal life like that? For you?" He smiled, and it was a genuine smile without guards. "Yes, definitely." Sarah felt something soften in her chest, the defenses she had kept so carefully beginning to crack. "One dinner, just one, and we'll see how it goes. Friday, I can pick you up at 8. "No, you can't." "Know where I live yet? It's too soon." She saw the hurt pass through his eyes, but he nodded understandingly. "Then I'll meet you somewhere. Pick the restaurant. Send me the address." "Okay." Sarah took a step back, creating the physical distance needed to think clearly. "I need to go. I have a meeting with HR in 10 minutes. Sarah?" He called her as she was almost at the door. "You're not regretting this, are you?" She looked back at that man who had somehow crossed all her defenses without even trying. "Ask me again after dinner." Outside the office, Veronica was at her station, fingers flying over the keyboard. She looked up as Sarah passed, and there was something cold in that look, not just disapproval, but something darker, possessiveness, jealousy. "Productive meeting?" Veronica asked, and there was a barely concealed acidity in her voice. "Very," Sarah replied, keeping her voice professionally neutral. In the elevator, alone, Sarah leaned against the wall and let out a trembling sigh. It had happened. It had really happened. She had kissed Robert Allen, and worse, or better, she had agreed to dinner with him. She took out her phone and texted Patricia. "I need urgent help. Can I come over Saturday? It's about clothes for a date." The response came almost immediately. Date? With who? Yes, come. Bring Lily. The boys will love playing with her. And you're going to tell me everything. Sarah smiled despite the nervousness. She was going to need reinforcements because she had the feeling she was about to enter the most dangerous territory she had ever faced. Marina explored the territory of her heart. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Sarah stood on the tiny balcony of her apartment, looking down at the city lights below. Her phone vibrated. Message from Robert. Still thinking about what happened. I can't stop smiling. I know it's scary. It is for me, too. But I feel like the fear is worth it. Good night, Sarah. Sarah typed and deleted 5 different responses. Finally, she sent, I can't stop thinking either. See you on Friday. The reply came with a heart emoji, small, discreet, but there. Sarah stared at that heart for a long time before saving the message and putting her phone away. She was doing it. She was really giving it a chance. God help her, the days leading up to Friday passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Sarah found herself constantly checking the clock, torn between wanting time to speed up and wishing Friday would never come. At work, she and Robert maintained a careful professional distance. Only formal emails about projects, no personal messages, no lingering looks. But there was a new tension in the air, an electric awareness every time they met in the halls or in meetings with other directors. On Thursday night, Sarah sat on the floor of the room she shared with Lily, clothes scattered around like casualties of war. Nothing felt right. The black dress was too formal, the jeans with a nice top were too casual. The blue dress had a stain she couldn't get out. She was 28 and felt like a 15-year-old getting ready for her first date. Mom, why is there so much clothes on the floor? Lily asked from her bed, interrupting the cartoon she was watching on the old tablet Sarah had managed to buy the year before. Sarah sighed. Because Mommy can't decide what to wear tomorrow. Why? Are you going somewhere? Sarah hesitated. She had avoided talking about dinner with Lily, not wanting to create expectations or confuse the girl, but Lily was smart, perceptive for her age. I'm going to dinner with Robert, the work uncle. Lily's eyes lit up instantly. The handsome uncle, like a date. It's like a work dinner. The lie came out weak, lacking conviction. Lily jumped off the bed, coming to sit next to her mother on the floor, her little fingers touching the scattered clothes. Mum, do you like him? Sarah looked into those intelligent green eyes and decided to be honest, at least partially. Yes, my love, I like him, as a friend, and tomorrow we're having dinner to get to know each other better outside of work. Is he going to be my dad? The question hit like a punch in the stomach. Sarah pulled her daughter into her lap, hugging her tightly. My sweet, it's not that simple. Adults need time to get to know each other, and even if Mommy likes him, that doesn't automatically mean he will be your dad. Do you understand? But I wanted to, Lily said with that brutal honesty of a child. I liked him, he was nice to me, and you look happy. When you talk about him, I notice. Sarah felt tears welling up. I know you want a dad, my love, and there's nothing wrong with wanting that. But I need you to understand, adults sometimes try to be together and it doesn't work out. And if that happens with Mommy and Robert, you can't be too sad, okay? But what if it works? Lily pulled back to look at her mother. What if he's nice and stays with us forever? That would be wonderful, Sarah admitted, wiping away a tear that escaped. But let's take it slow, okay? 1 step at a time. Tomorrow is just dinner, nothing more for now. Lily nodded, smiling. Then she picked up a wine-colored dress from the corner of the pile. Wear this. It's pretty and makes you happy. I remember when you bought it, you smiled in the mirror. Sarah took the dress. She had bought it 2 years ago on sale, never worn it because she never had the occasion. It was simple yet elegant. Knee-length, three-quarter sleeves, discreet neckline. Perfect. You're right. This is perfect. Sarah kissed the top of her daughter's head. When did you get so smart? I've always been, Lily replied with a comical seriousness that made Sarah laugh for the first time in days. Friday arrived with a cloudy sky and mild temperatures. Sarah spent the day at work in a constant state of distraction, messing up numbers in spreadsheets, having to read emails 3 times to process simple information. At 4 in the afternoon, she asked to leave early. She had accumulated enough overtime to justify it. She stopped by Grandma Betty's house to confirm that she could watch Lily. Of course, my dear. And where are you going looking so pretty? Do you have a date? The neighbor asked with that mischievous smile of someone who already knew the answer. It's just dinner, Grandma Betty. Uh-huh, just a dinner that makes you nervous like this. Go on, get ready. Lily will stay with me. We'll make popcorn and watch those cartoons she likes. At home, Sarah took a long shower, washed and dried her hair carefully, applied more elaborate makeup than usual, soft eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara, old rose lipstick. She put on the wine dress, the only pair of high heels she owned, simple yet elegant black pumps. She looked in the small bathroom mirror and hardly recognized herself. She looked beautiful, feminine, not just the tired mom or the serious professional, but a woman. "Mom, you look beautiful," Lily exclaimed when Sarah came out of the bathroom, "like a princess." "Thank you, my love." Sarah knelt to be at her daughter's height. "Remember what we talked about? I'm going to dinner with Robert, but it's just dinner. No expectations, okay?" "Okay, Mum, but I hope it's nice." "Me too, my sweet, me too." Sarah took an Uber, she wasn't taking the subway dressed like this, to the... Robert suggested a discreet Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, away from the places where company employees usually hung out. The traffic was heavy as always, and Sarah used the 40 minutes in the car to try to calm her nerves, taking deep breaths and reminding herself that it was just dinner. Just a conversation. The restaurant, the Three Venices, was small and charming, with exposed brick walls, low, soft lighting, tables adorned with white linen tablecloths, and lit candles creating an intimate atmosphere. Soft, instrumental Italian music played in the background. The smell of garlic, basil, and fresh pasta filled the air. Robert was already there, waiting at a corner table. When he saw her enter, he immediately stood up, and Sarah noticed the impact on his face, his eyes widening slightly, a slow smile forming. He looked stunning. Black dress pants, a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the elbows, no tie, the collar open revealing the base of his neck. His hair was slicked back, but with a few rebellious strands falling onto his forehead. He seemed more relaxed than at the office, younger, more approachable. "Sarah," he said as she approached, his voice filled with admiration. You look beautiful." "Thank you," she said, feeling her face warm. "You also look good." He chuckled softly, that deep sound doing something strange to her stomach. "Good? I'll take the understated compliment." He pulled out the chair for her, a chivalrous gesture that made her smile. When they sat down, there was a moment of slightly uncomfortable silence. The silence of two people who had spent weeks talking professionally, but were now in a completely different context. "So," Robert began, his fingers lightly drumming on the table, "this is weird, isn't it?" Sarah laughed, relieved by his honesty. "Very. I haven't done this in years, literally. My last date was before I got pregnant with Lily." "Seriously? 5 years?" "6, technically, and it's not like I have much time or energy to date when you're a full-time working single mom." She paused. "What about you? When was your last real relationship?" Robert thought. 3 years, maybe 4. A lawyer named Beatrice. We dated for 8 months. She was smart, successful, beautiful. On paper, perfect. What happened? She wanted to get married, not to me, but to the CEO, to the lifestyle, to the idea of being Robert, Alan's wife. When she realized I was a workaholic with intimacy issues and recurring nightmares about being abandoned again, her interest cooled quickly. He smiled, but there was sadness there. She ended it saying I was emotionally unavailable. She was probably right. Robert, no, he raised his hand. You don't need to. It's true. I spend so much time with my walls up that I've forgotten how to let them down. But with you... He leaned forward, those intense blue eyes locked onto hers. With you, it's different. I can't explain why. Maybe because you saw me at my worst. That night on the highway, frustrated, wet, vulnerable, and still were kind. Maybe because you don't want anything from me other than who I really am. Or maybe because your daughter saw me and decided I was worth defending. Sarah felt something tighten in her chest. Lily has that effect on people. She sees through the masks. Like her mother, Robert said softly. The waiter arrived, interrupting the moment. They ordered. Sarah chose a mushroom risotto, Robert an osso buco, a bottle of red wine to share. When they were alone again, the initial tension had dissipated, replaced by something more comfortable. Tell me about Lily, Robert asked. I want to know everything. What was it like when she was born? What does she like? Her fears, her dreams? And Sarah spoke. She talked about the difficult delivery, alone in the hospital because her mother couldn't make it from North Carolina in time. She talked about the first months of motherhood, terrifying and exhausting, figuring everything out on her own through Google and Facebook groups. She talked about the first time Lily smiled, the first time she said "Mama," the first wobbly steps. She talked about sleepless nights with fevers, scares with choking, the constant fear of doing everything wrong. She loves to draw, Sarah said, her eyes shining as she spoke of her daughter. She makes these elaborate drawings of castles and princesses, but her princesses are always warriors. There's one she drew last week where the princess is fighting a dragon on equal terms, not waiting for a prince to save her. She said it was me. Robert smiled. She sees you as a hero. She's not wrong. I don't feel like a hero. I feel tired most of the time, always guilty. Guilty when I work too much and spend little time with her. Guilty when I spend time with her and don't work enough. It's never the right balance. Sarah, look at me. Robert took her hand across the table, the touch sending an electric jolt up her arm. You're doing an amazing job. Lily is happy, healthy, confident, kind. That doesn't happen by chance. It happens because there's a dedicated mother who always puts her first. How do you know she's happy? You've only seen her once. I've seen enough. I saw a child who isn't afraid to stand up for her mother in front of strangers. Unhappy or insecure children don't do that. She has courage because you taught her that it's worth fighting for the people we love. He squeezed her hand. You gave that to her. That courage, that sense of justice. It's an incredible gift. Sarah felt tears threatening and blinked quickly. You know exactly what to say. I'm just being honest. He paused, his thumb tracing unconscious circles on the back of her hand. Can I ask you a difficult question? Sure. Are you afraid to let me get to know her better? Lily, afraid that I might hurt her? Sarah took a deep breath. Honesty. He deserved honesty. Yes, terrified actually, because she has already created this fantasy in her head where you are kind of the father. She never had. And I know it's unfair to put this pressure on you, this expectation, but I also can't just erase her feelings. So yes, I'm scared. If this doesn't work out between us, it's not just me who will hurt, it's her too. Robert was quiet for a long moment, processing. When he spoke, his voice was serious, heavy with meaning. So let's do this. Let's not rush anything. Let's get to know each other better first. just the two of us. And if we reach the point where I know Lily beyond the work uncle, I'll make it very clear to her that I'm a friend of her mum. No promises I can't guarantee, no impossible expectations. Just honest presence. Can we do that?" "We can," Sarah agreed, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. The food arrived, and the conversation flowed naturally as they ate. Robert shared about growing up in St. Vincent's orphanage, the friendships he made and lost when children were adopted, the feeling of always being temporary, never fully belonging anywhere. Sarah shared about growing up in Asheville with her widowed mother who worked as a seamstress to support her, the sacrifices Grandma Betty made to pay for her daughter's college. "My mom sold her sewing machine, that old machine that belonged to her mother, which had immense sentimental value, to pay for my tuition at PUC, Sarah said, her voice choked. "She said education was the only inheritance no one could take from me. I cried for days. I still feel guilty about it. She did it because she loves you, and because she believes in you, just like you make sacrifices for Lily because you love her. It's the cycle of love, Sarah. It's not a burden, it's a gift." "When did you become so wise?" Robert laughed. "Therapy, lots of therapy. After Saul died, I finally admitted I needed help processing everything. Best decision I ever made." Dessert came, tiramisu to share, 2 spoons, feeding each other across the table, laughing when Sarah dropped a piece on her blouse and Robert gently wiped it with the napkin, his fingers brushing her collarbone in a way that made her heart race. It was almost 11 at night when they finally left the restaurant. Brooklyn was alive, crowded bars, music spilling into the streets, people laughing and chatting on the sidewalks. May had arrived, and the air was cold, making Sarah shiver. "Are you cold?" Robert asked immediately, already taking off the jacket he had brought. "You don't have to—" But he was already draping it over her shoulders, the fabric still warm from his body, carrying that woodsy scent she was starting to associate with safety. "Thank you," she said softly. They walked down the street with no specific destination, just enjoying the night. At some point his hand found hers, fingers intertwining naturally, as if they had always done that. "That was the best dinner I've had in years," Robert said after a while. "Me too," Sarah admitted. "I had forgotten what it's like, this connection, real conversation. Not just about work or responsibilities, but about life, feelings, dreams. Can we do it again, next Friday, or Saturday if you prefer the weekend?" Sarah hesitated. The rational, cautious part said to take it slow, but the heart, that stubborn and hopeful organ, had already decided. "Saturday," she said. "But this time you can pick me up at home. I think Lily would like to see you, just for a minute before we go out, if you want." The smile that lit up his face was genuine and vulnerable. "I would love to, seriously. But Sarah, I'll only do it if you're sure. I don't want to pressure you." "I'm sure. Or at least, I'm sure I want to try. It's scary and there are 1,000 ways it could go wrong. But there's also one way it could go very right. And I think it's worth the risk." Robert stopped walking, turning to face her completely. The street was noisy around them, but it felt like they were in a bubble, just the two of them existing in that moment. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, and there was something so respectful in that question, so different from what she was used to. "Yes," she whispered. The kiss was different from the one in his apartment, slower, more deliberate, savoring every second. His hands moved to her face, holding her gently, as if she were something precious he feared to break. Her hands clutched his shirt, pulling him closer, wanting more, wanting everything. When they broke apart, both were breathless, silly smiles on their faces. "Wow," Robert said eloquently. "Wow," Sarah agreed, laughing. They stood there for a few more minutes, just holding each other, Sarah leaning against his chest, listening to his heart beat strong and steady. It felt good. It felt safe. It was terrifying. It was perfect. "I need to go," Sarah said reluctantly. "Grandma Betty is with Lily, and I promised to be back before midnight." "Of course, I'll order an Uber for you." "You don't have to." "Sarah," he gently cut her off, "let me take care of you once in a while. Not because I think you need it, but because I want to, because it makes me feel good to do this for you." How could she argue with that? "Okay, thank you." As they waited for the car to arrive, Robert asked, "What are you going to tell Lily?" "The truth, that we had dinner, talked, that it was good, and that you're going to visit us on Saturday. She'll be over the moon." "And you? How are you feeling now? Still scared?" Sarah thought. "Honestly, yes, but also hopeful. It's a strange combination." "I completely understand. I feel the same." The Uber arrived. Robert opened the door for her, but before she got in, he pulled her in for one more quick kiss. "Text me when you get home, just so I know you're okay." "I will." During the ride back to Brooklyn, Sarah gazed out the window, his jacket still on her shoulders, smelling of his cologne, smiling like an idiot. When she picked up her phone, there was a message from him. "I'm already counting the days until Saturday, thank you." "Good night, Sarah," she typed back. "Thank you for being patient, for understanding, for making me feel that maybe, just maybe, I deserve something good. See you Saturday, Robert." When she got home and paid Grandma Betty, when she checked Lily sleeping soundly, when she finally lay down in bed, Sarah stared at the ceiling in the dark, processing the night. It had happened. She had really let someone in. She had opened the door to her heart that she swore she would keep locked. And instead of the expected terror, she felt peace, hope. The delicate possibility that maybe, just maybe, happy endings weren't just for fairy tales. It was scary. It was wonderful. It was the beginning of something she didn't know where it would end. But for the first time in 6 years, Sarah was willing to find out. Saturday dawned with a crystal blue sky, rare for New York. Sarah woke up to Lily bouncing on the bed, all excited. "Mom, Mom, wake up! Uncle Robert is coming today." Sarah smiled, pulling her daughter into a hug. "Yes, my love, but only in the late afternoon. It's 7 in the morning. You woke me up way too early. But I need to get ready, pick up my clothes, do my hair." Lily was buzzing with excitement. "Is he going to like me?" Sarah's heart squeezed. "My sweet girl, he already likes you. Remember? You've met before." "But now it's different. Now he's like your boyfriend." Sarah sat up in bed, pulling Lily onto her lap. They needed to have this conversation. "Lily, listen. Robert and I are getting to know each other better, as special friends. That doesn't automatically mean boyfriends, and it definitely doesn't mean he's going to be your dad. Do you understand the difference?" Lily's green eyes grew serious. "But you like him, in a special way." "Yes," Sarah admitted, choosing honesty. "I like him in a special way. But adults need time. And even though we like each other, it doesn't mean we're going to become a family overnight. Sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay. But sometimes they do," Lily argued, with the stubbornness she inherited from her mother. "And I think it's going to work. He looks at you with those bright eyes, and you get all silly when you talk about him." Sarah laughed despite the tension. "I do not get silly. You do. You smile differently, like with your heart." "Smile with my heart." Sarah kissed the top of her daughter's head. "You come up with the funniest things, little girl." They spent the morning cleaning the apartment. Sarah was hyper-aware of every detail, every crack in the wall, every old and worn piece of furniture. The 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn was humble. The living room had a faded beige sofa, a small TV on a simple stand, floral curtains that came with the rented place. The kitchen was tiny, with basic appliances. The bedroom they shared had a double bed, a plywood wardrobe, and Lily's toys organized in plastic bins in a corner. It wasn't the kind of place a billionaire was used to visiting. "Mum, you're nervous," Lily observed as Sarah rearranged the sofa cushions for the third time. "I am, a little. I want everything to look nice." "But he likes you, not the apartment." Sarah paused, looking at her 5-year-old daughter who sometimes seemed 30. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been," Lily replied with that comic seriousness that always made Sarah smile. By 5 in the afternoon they were both ready. Sarah wore dark jeans and a light blue silk blouse she had bought on sale months ago but had never worn. Her hair was down in natural waves, light makeup and a subtle perfume. Lily insisted on wearing her party dress, a pink dress with tulle that Grandma Betty had given her for her last birthday. She had styled her curls and added a bow headband. "Am I pretty?" Lily asked, twirling. "You're beautiful, my love. A princess." At 6 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Sarah felt her stomach knot. Lily ran to the door. "Wait!" Sarah held her back. "Let Mommy open it." She took a deep breath and opened the door. Robert was there, standing in the narrow hallway of the building, holding a bouquet of flowers, not cliché red roses, but a mixed arrangement of vibrant colors. In his other hand, a gift-wrapped box with castle designs. He wore dark jeans and a casual white shirt, without the formality of office suits. He looked younger, more approachable, and he was smiling that genuine smile that made Sarah's heart melt. "Hi," he said, and there was an adorable nervousness in him too. "I brought flowers for you." And he looked down, where Lily was practically bouncing with excitement. "I brought something for the little lady too, if her mom allows." "Robert!" Lily exclaimed. "You came!" "I did, as promised." He crouched down to her level. "And can I say that you look absolutely beautiful? A true princess." Lily blushed, twirling her dress. "You look nice too, like a prince." Sarah felt tears welling up but held them back. "Come in, please. Sorry for the mess. It's small, but—" "Sarah?" Robert gently interrupted, stepping inside and looking around. "It's perfect. It's a home. It has life. It has love. That's all that matters." He handed the flowers to Sarah, his fingers brushed against hers, that familiar electric touch. Then he offered the box to Lily. "Can I open it?" Lily looked at her mom, asking for permission. "You can, my love." Lily tore the wrapping paper with childlike enthusiasm. Inside was a professional drawing kit, imported colored pencils, markers, quality paper pads, even a small folding easel. "Your mum told me you like to draw," Robert explained, "so I thought you might like this." Lily's eyes widened. "It's a real drawing kit, like what artists use." She dropped everything and threw herself into Robert's arms, hugging him tightly. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Sarah saw the look on Robert's face transform, initial surprise, then a deep and raw emotion. He hugged Lily back carefully, as if holding something precious and fragile. "You're welcome, Princess," he said, his voice choked. "I'm glad you liked it." When Lily let go to examine the kit in detail, Robert stood by, and Sarah saw discreet tears at the corners of his eyes. "Are you okay?" she whispered. "Yes. It's just, no one has ever hugged me like that, with so much genuine joy, expecting nothing in return. He quickly wiped his eyes. "Sorry, I'm being ridiculous." "You're not." Sarah touched his arm. "You're not being ridiculous, and it meant a lot to her too. Thank you for the gift. It was very thoughtful." "Mom, can I draw before you guys leave?" Lily asked, already setting up the easel in the living room. Sarah looked at Robert, who nodded. "Of course, my love. We have a few minutes." The next 20 minutes were surreal, normal, and wonderful. Lily drew while chatting animatedly with Robert about her warrior princesses, her dragon drawings, her invented stories. He listened with genuine attention, asking questions, laughing at the right moments, showing real interest. Sarah made a quick coffee, nothing fancy, just the simple brewed coffee she made every day, and brought it to the living room with some cookies. They sat on the old sofa, Lily on the floor with her drawings, and for a moment Sarah caught a glimpse of what it could be like. A family, simple, real, every day. "Done," Lily announced, holding up a drawing. It was a castle, but different from the usual ones. It had 3 figures in front, a woman, a girl, and a man. "It's us. Look, Mom. You're wearing the blue shirt you're wearing today, and Robert is in the white shirt, and I'm in my pink dress." Sarah felt her heart tighten. She looked at Robert, who was gazing at the drawing with an expression she couldn't fully decipher. Wonder, fear, hope. "It's beautiful, Lily," Sarah said softly. "You have a lot of talent." "Can I give it to Robert?" Lily asked, "for him to put in his office?" "I would love that," Robert replied before Sarah could intervene. "I'll put it in my office, on the wall behind my desk. That way I can see it every day." Lily's smile lit up the entire room. Sarah glanced at the clock. "My love, we need to leave you with Grandma Betty now. Remember we agreed?" "Okay," Lily sighed dramatically. "But will you be back early?" "Not too late," Sarah promised. They left Lily at the apartment next door with Grandma Betty, who couldn't hide her curiosity upon seeing Robert, giving that cheeky smile of, "You'll tell me everything later." In Robert's car, a new black BMW, but not ostentatious, Sarah finally relaxed, sinking into the soft leather seat. "That was intense," she said. "It was perfect," Robert corrected, fastening his seatbelt. "Your daughter is amazing, Sarah, genuinely amazing. And your apartment, your home, it has more warmth and life than all the expensive places I've ever lived. You don't have to be nice about—" "I'm not being nice, I'm being honest." He took her hand over the center console. "I live in a 300-square-meter penthouse on the Upper East Side. Designer furniture, artwork on the walls, panoramic city views, and it's empty, cold. It never felt like home. But those 20 minutes in, your apartment, seeing you and Lily, feeling that love between you, that is home. That's what money can't buy." Sarah felt tears threaten again. "You made her very happy today. The gift was perfect. I was the one who was happy. When she hugged me." He paused, swallowing. "I grew up in a place where physical affection didn't exist. Hugs were rare, always formal. And then this little girl just throws herself into my arms with such pure joy, no ulterior motives, no calculations. I didn't realize I missed that until it happened." They drove in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Robert had planned to have dinner at a fancy restaurant in the gardens, but at the last minute he changed the plans. "How about we order food and have dinner at my penthouse? Just the 2 of us, without waiters watching us, without curious glances. We can really talk, if you feel comfortable, of course." Sarah should have been nervous. Going to his apartment, alone, seemed to cross a significant line. But strangely, she felt safe. "Okay, but I warn you that I need to be home by midnight. Grandma Betty charges extra after that." He laughed. "Deal. Midnight like Cinderella." His penthouse was in a modern building on the Upper East Side, with ostentatious security and a marble lobby that felt more like a 5-star hotel than a residential building. The private elevator went straight to his apartment, and when the doors opened, Sarah understood what he meant about emptiness. It was objectively stunning. Double-height ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of New York City lit up, contemporary furniture in neutral tones, a gourmet kitchen, abstract artwork on the walls. But it was impersonal. No family photos, no clutter, none of those little details that made a place feel lived in. "It's beautiful," Sarah said honestly, but I understand what you said about it being empty. Exactly. Robert tossed the keys onto a console table. It's a showcase, not a home. I come here to sleep, sometimes work, but I don't really live here. He ordered Japanese food, assorted sushi and yakisoba. While they waited, he gave her a tour of the apartment. 3 suites, an office, a TV room, a huge balcony with a spectacular view. In the office, Sarah noticed the only personal photo in the entire house, that same adoption photo he had shown in the office. "Why don't you have more photos?" she asked. "Because I don't have any more. I don't have childhood photos before the adoption. The orphanage didn't keep those things. And after the adoption, Steve wasn't the type to take family photos. We have a few from corporate events, graduations, things like that. But nothing personal. Nothing that captures moments of real happiness." Sarah touched the frame. "This is going to change. Now you have pictures." "I do?" "You do. Lily gave you a drawing. Counts as a family photo." Robert smiled, carefully touching the folded drawing in his shirt pocket. "You're right. It's my first real family photo." The food arrived, and they sat on the porch, New York twinkling below like an ocean of lights. It was May, chilly but pleasant, and Robert had lit an outdoor fireplace that warmed the space comfortably. "Can I ask you a personal question?" Sarah said after a while, the warm sake making her brave. "Always. Why me? Seriously, Robert, you could have any woman. Models, executives, women without baggage, without complications. Why choose a single mother with 1,000 problems and a 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn?" Robert set his chopsticks aside, turning to face her completely. "Do you want the honest answer or the romantic one?" "Honest. Always honest." "Okay. The honest answer is that you see me. For real. Not the CEO, not the money, not the status. You saw me that night on the highway when I was just a guy with a broken car in the rain, and you were kind without needing to be, without wanting anything in return. Then, at the office, when Lily defended me against myself, you didn't try to use that to your advantage. You apologized, showed vulnerability. You were human. And since then, every interaction we have, you treat me as a person, not as a trophy or a project." He took her hand. "And about the baggage. Sarah, Lily is not baggage. She's amazing. And you being a single mother is not a flaw. It's proof of strength. You sacrificed, fought, built a life for both of you from nothing. That's heroism. How could I see that as a negative?" "Because most men do," Sarah said bitterly. "Most run away when they find out about her. Then most men are idiots. And Sarah," he leaned in, closer. "I grew up without family. I know exactly what that hunger for belonging feels like, for connection, for someone to choose you. You offer me a chance to belong, to be part of something real. How could that be negative?" Sarah felt tears falling now, not caring to hide them. "You have to understand. I need to protect her. If you decide this is too much, that it's not what you want, I understand. But please, don't let her get too attached if you're not sure. Because she's already gotten a little attached, and if you leave—" "Sarah, listen." Robert wiped her tears away with his thumb. "I can't promise that we'll work perfectly forever. No one can. But I can promise that if it doesn't work out, it won't be because I gave up easily. It won't be because I decided you two are too much work. It will just be because, well, sometimes people don't fit, even though they want to. But I will try. I will really try, because you two are worth it. Promise? I promise." It was then that Sarah's phone rang. She looked. Unknown number. She usually ignored it, but something made her answer. "Hello? Sarah? Sarah Johnson?" A male voice, vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. "Yes, who is this?" "It's Robert. Robert Johnson." Sarah's world stopped. Robert Johnson, Lily's father, the man who had abandoned her 6 years ago. the voice she hadn't heard since that day when he said, "I'm not ready for this," and disappeared. "What? What do you want?" Her own voice came out shaky. Robert, the one sitting in front of her, immediately noticed the change. He frowned, concerned. "Who is it?" he whispered. Sarah covered the phone. "Lily's father." She mouthed silently. Robert's expression turned serious instantly. "Sarah, I know this is out of the blue," her ex's voice continued on the line, "but I need to talk to you, in person. It's about Lily." "You lost the right to talk about her when you disappeared 6 years ago," Sarah practically shouted, years of anger exploding. "You don't call, you don't send money, you show no interest, and now you call out of nowhere wanting what? Sarah, please, just give me a chance to explain. I'm in New York. Can we meet tomorrow? It's important." "No, I'm not meeting with you. There's nothing you can say that I want to hear. Sarah, it's about visitation rights. My lawyer said I can request—" "Your lawyer?" Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Are you threatening me with a lawyer?" "It's not a threat. It's just, I want to meet my daughter. I have a right. You abdicated any right when you abandoned her before she was even born. Don't call me again. Don't show up in our lives. You were dead to us." She hung up with trembling hands. The silence that followed was thick. Sarah was breathing heavily, panic starting to rise. Visitation rights? Lawyer? After 6 years? "Sarah!" Robert moved to sit beside her, pulling her into a hug. "Breathe. Breathe with me. He wants to meet Lily. After 6 years, he talked about a lawyer, about rights. Robert, what if he can take her from me? What if the system decides he has rights even though he abandoned us?" Hey, calm down. First, he can't just take Lily from you. You are her mother, the primary caregiver, the only one who has been there. Second, if he really tries something legal, we will fight. You are not alone in this. But I don't have money for a good lawyer. He might have it. He can pay a fancy lawyer who will destroy me in court. "Sarah, listen, look at me." Robert held her face, forcing her to look at him. "I have the best lawyers in New York on my legal team, and they are yours now too. I won't let him intimidate you or take Lily from you. Got it? You are not alone." Sarah hugged him tightly, letting the tears fall. 6 years building a life, 6 years protecting Lily, and now this ghost from the past appeared wanting to destroy everything. "For what now?" she sobbed. "Why is it happening now when I was finally happy?" "I don't know, love, I just don't know." Robert gently stroked her hair, murmuring comforting words. They stayed like that for long minutes, until Sarah finally calmed down enough to think rationally. "I need to go home," she said. "I need to be with Lily. I need to process this. I'll take you, and tomorrow, Monday, I'll connect you with Anna, our legal director. She specializes in family law. We'll find out exactly what he can or can't, or do, okay?" Sarah nodded, emotionally and physically exhausted. In the car, heading back to Brooklyn, she remained quiet, staring out the window without really seeing anything. Robert held her hand the whole time, a solid and comforting presence. When they arrived at her building, he turned off the engine and faced her. "Sarah, what happened today doesn't change anything between us. Do you understand that? I'm not running away because complications have come up. I'm here. I'm going to stay here. How can you be sure? Because you're worth the fight. Lily is worth the fight, and I've spent too much time running from real connections. I'm not going to run from this." Sarah kissed him, a kiss filled with gratitude, fear, hope, all mixed together. "Thank you," she whispered against his lips, "for everything, for being here, for not running away." "Always," he promised. Sarah entered the building with shaky legs and a tight heart. She picked up Lily, still sleeping on Grandma Betty's sofa, took her home, and placed her in bed. She stayed awake all night, watching her daughter sleep, making silent promises. No one was going to take Lily away from her. No one. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't completely alone in this fight. She had someone by her side, someone who promised to stay. She just hoped the universe wouldn't turn that promise into another painful disappointment. Sunday dawned heavy and grey, perfectly matching Sarah's emotional state. She had barely slept, her mind spinning in endless circles about Robert Johnson's call, about what he might want, about all the worst-case scenarios. Lily woke up early, still excited about the gift from yesterday, wanting to draw with her new kit. "Mum, are you sad?" the girl asked, her green eyes too perceptive. "Is it because of the phone call last night? I heard you crying." Sarah pulled her daughter into a tight embrace, her heart breaking. Lily shouldn't have to worry about these things. She should just be a carefree, happy child. "Mommy just has some grown-up problems, my sweet, but nothing you need to worry about. It's all okay." "Is it because of my dad, the one who left?" Sarah pulled back to look at Lily, surprised. Why do you ask that?" "Because I heard you say Robert Johnson on the phone. It's the same name as mine. My middle name. Lily Johnson. You said my dad's name was Robert and had the same last name you had before I was born." Sarah had forgotten how much Lily paid attention to everything, how much she processed and stored information. "Yes, my love. It was him on the phone. Does he want to meet me now?" There was a confusing mix of hope and fear in Lily's voice. "I don't know what he wants, to be honest. But what I do know is that you don't need to worry about anything. Mommy will take care of everything, just like she always does. You just keep being my beautiful, happy girl, okay? But do I have two Roberts now?" Lily asked, and there was something painfully vulnerable in that question. "The Robert who gave me the gift and that you like, and the Robert who is my dad, but who left." "Yes, my love. Two different Roberts. Robert Allen, who is Mommy's friend and came to visit us yesterday, and Robert Johnson, who is your biological father, but who isn't part of our lives." "I want it to be Robert Allen," Lily said with that childlike determination that allowed no arguments. "He's nice. He brought a gift. He makes you smile. The other Robert just makes you cry." Sarah felt tears burning, but held them back. "Come on, let's make pancakes for breakfast. Your favorites with chocolate." They spent the morning in forced normalcy. Pancakes, drawings, an episode of Peppa Pig. But Sarah was distracted, constantly checking her phone, waiting. She didn't quite know for what. Another call, a threatening message, a lawyer showing up at the door. At 10 in the morning the phone rang. Robert Allen. "Hi," she answered, trying to keep her voice steady with Lily nearby. "Good morning. How are you? Did you get any sleep?" "A little, but I'm managing." "Anna, our legal director, agreed to meet with you today. I know it's Sunday, but she's a workaholic and said she prefers to resolve it quickly. Can you come to the office at 2 in the afternoon? I'll be there too if you want, or I can stay out if you'd prefer to talk to her alone." Sarah felt a huge sense of relief. Action. They could take action, do something, not just wait in panic. "I'll be there, and can you stay? And can you, if it's not too much trouble?" "It's never too much trouble. I want to be there for you." "Robert?" Sarah said, her voice dropping lower. "Thank you. Really. I don't know what I would do without you right now." "You would do what you always do. Fight tooth and nail for your daughter, but now you don't have to do it alone. See you at 2, okay?" After hanging up, Sarah needed to figure out who to leave Lily with. Grandma Betty was visiting her daughter in Asheville. She called her mother in Asheville. "Mom, can you come to New York urgently? I need help." The concern in Grandma Betty's voice was immediate. "What happened? Are you all okay?" Sarah explained about the call, about Robert Johnson reappearing, about lawyers and visitation rights. She omitted the part about Robert Allen, a complication at a time. "That bastard!" Grandma Betty exclaimed. Betty practically shouted, 6 years! 6 years without giving a dime, without asking if your granddaughter is alive or dead, and now he shows up wanting rights. Honey, I'm taking the bus today. I'll arrive around 9 tonight. Thank you, Mum. I was afraid to face this alone. You are never alone while I'm alive, Sarah Helena. Never forget that. With Grandma Betty arriving at night and available until then, Sarah managed to arrange care for Lily. At 1:30, she put on jeans, a neutral top, grabbed a folder with all the documents she had. Lily's birth certificate, where the father's name was listed, but without formal acknowledgement. Medical records showing all the appointments she had paid for herself. Receipts for everything she had bought for her daughter over the past 5 years. Everything that proved that she, and only she, had raised that child. The office on Sundays was ghostly. Empty hallways, automatic lights turning on as she passed, absolute silence. Sarah went up to the 30th floor, where Robert was waiting with a woman in her 40s, short, practical brown hair, red-framed glasses, casually dressed in jeans and a top, but exuding professional competence. Sarah, this is Anna Paula Smith, our legal director. Anna, this is Sarah Johnson, the one I told you about. Anna Paula extended her hand with a firm handshake and a warm smile. Sarah, nice to officially meet you. Robert told me about the situation. Let's sit down and talk about your options, okay? They sat in the conference room, a large glass table, comfortable chairs, a view of the deserted Fifth Avenue on a May Sunday. Robert sat next to Sarah, a silent but comforting presence. First, Anna Paula began, opening her laptop, I need some facts. Did the biological father officially acknowledge paternity? Is his name on the birth certificate? It's on the certificate, Sarah confirmed, passing the document. But he never formally acknowledged it. He disappeared before I gave birth, never paid child support, never visited, never showed any interest. Anna Paula took notes. Has he contacted you? Formally about wanting visitation rights? Is there anything in writing? Just that call yesterday. He said his lawyer talked about visitation rights. Sarah, I'll be honest with you. Legally, yes. A biological father can request visitation rights even after years of absence. The judicial system tends to favor maintaining paternal bonds, based on the premise that it's better for the child to know both parents. Sarah felt panic rising. But he abandoned her. He can't just show up now and... Let me finish. Anna Paula gently raised her hand. He can request it, yes, but... And this is... and important, but the judge will evaluate the best interest of the child. Several factors weigh against him. Material abandonment for 6 years, complete emotional absence, the fact that Lily has no memory or bond with him. If he shows up now, wanting full visitation or joint custody, he will have to prove that he has changed, that he is stable, that he has a genuine interest in the child's well-being, not just in causing problems for you. And if he manages to prove that? Sarah's voice trembled. Then in the worst-case scenario, a judge may grant supervised visitation, initially. Not joint custody right away. He would have to build a gradual relationship with Lily, prove consistency over months, possibly years. And throughout this process, you would have the right to demand that he pays retroactive child support for the 6 years of abandonment, which could be a substantial amount. But I don't want his money, Sarah exploded. I want him to stay away from my daughter. She doesn't need him, never did. Robert gently touched her arm. Sarah, breathe. Anna Paula patiently waited for Sarah to calm down. I understand your anger. It's completely valid. But if he really takes this to court, we need to play strategically. The retroactive support isn't about the money. It's about creating a legal record that he failed in his basic responsibilities. It's ammunition we use to argue that he shouldn't have easy visitation rights now. So what do I do? Sarah asked, feeling completely lost. Do I wait for him to sue me? Try to talk to him? What? First, don't take any more of his calls directly. All communication goes through me from now on. I will send a formal notice to him stating that you are legally represented and that any contact must be made through my office. Second, I will file a preventive action establishing you as the sole legal guardian and requesting that he be required to pay retroactive support if he wants any type of visitation rights. Third, we will prepare a complete dossier showing your history as a mother. Medical records, school records, statements from teachers and caregivers, everything that proves that Lily is well cared for and happy. How much is this going to cost? Sarah asked, the financial reality hitting her. She had minimal savings, barely enough for emergencies. Paula looked at Robert, who subtly nodded. Sarah, it will be pro bono, no cost to you. I can't accept that. It's too much. You can and you will, Robert said firmly. This isn't charity, it's family, taking care of family. Sarah looked at him, those intense and sincere blue eyes, and felt something break inside her. Not negatively, but like a dam bursting, releasing years of loneliness and solitary struggle. Family. Yes, he simply said, taking her hand across the table. Family. Paula discreetly looked at her laptop, giving them a moment of emotional privacy. After a few seconds, she gently cleared her throat. Sarah, I also need to ask something delicate. Is there anyone in Lily's life who could serve as a positive father figure? Someone she sees regularly, who shows care and interest? This would help the case, showing that she has positive male support, even without the biological father. Sarah and Robert exchanged glances. Was it too soon to say he was that figure? They had barely started dating, but it was also true. Lily had already formed a bond with me, Robert replied, before Sarah could think better of it. I've been spending time with Sarah and Lily, not as a father substitute, that would be presumptuous and premature, but as someone who cares about their well-being, someone who is present. Anna smiled, and there was something knowing in that smile. I understand. Well, that's helpful. If this is something that continues to develop, it could definitely help the case. It shows that Lily has a stable environment and positive figures around her. They spent another 2 hours discussing strategies, possible scenarios, timelines. When they finally finished, it was almost 5 in the evening. Anna promised to start working immediately, to have documents ready by Tuesday. Sarah, she said as they said their goodbyes, I understand this is daunting, but you have a strong case. 6 years of abandonment are not easily overlooked by the system, and you are clearly a dedicated and competent mother. We're going to fight for you and Lily, okay? Thank you, Sarah said, her voice choked. Thank you so much. After Anna left, Sarah and Robert were alone in the conference room, the city starting to light up down below as twilight fell. You called us family, Sarah said softly, breaking the silence. I did. Was that premature? I don't know, maybe, but it was also exactly what I needed to hear. She turned to face him. Robert, do you understand what you're getting into? This could get ugly. There could be a court battle, hearings, all kinds of drama. It's not too late to back out, to decide it's too complicated. Robert stood up, walked around the table, and knelt in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. Sarah, listen. I'm going to say this once, and you need to believe it. I'm not going anywhere. I grew up without family, without anyone fighting for me. Now I have a chance to be that person for someone, for you, for Lily. Why would I waste that? Why would I run from the best thing that's happened to me in years just because an obstacle appeared? But we've only been together for a week. We barely know each other, and we're already dealing with ex-drama, a possible court battle, insane pressure. And? He smiled. that smile that made her heart melt. Some couples take years to get to know each other in comfortable situations and don't survive the first crisis. We're being tested early. If we get through this together, imagine how strong we'll be afterward. Sarah felt tears falling, tears of fear still, but also of relief, gratitude, and something dangerously close to love. How can you be so sure of this? Of us? Because when I hug Lily, I feel what I imagine normal families feel. Belonging. Because when I look at you, I see not only the beautiful woman who attracts me, but a partner, a fighter, someone who understands the value of not giving up on the things that matter. And because, he gently touched her face, for the first time in my life when I think about the future, I don't see loneliness, I see possibility. They kissed there in the empty conference room, the city lighting up below, a kiss that was not about passion but about promise, about choice, about two survivors deciding that it was worth risking together. When they pulled apart, Sarah rested her forehead against his. It's going to get intense. My mom is coming from North Carolina tonight. She's going to meet you eventually, and she is protective. She's going to interrogate you, judge you, evaluate if you're good enough for her daughter. Let the interrogation come, Robert said without hesitation. I imagine you inherited your strength from her. I'm looking forward to meeting her. And at work, people are already talking. It's going to get worse when they find out we're actually together, that it's not just gossip. Then we make it official. I'll talk to the board this week, implement the protocols I promised. You can report to someone else if that makes you more comfortable. We do it right, transparently, without hiding. Sarah shook her head, amazed. You really thought of everything. I've had plenty of time to think about you in the last few months, since that night on the highway, to be honest. He smiled. I'm the CEO, Sarah. Strategic planning is my specialty, and you are the most important project I've ever worked on. Project? She feigned indignation, but she was smiling. Poor choice of words. You are my person. Is that better? That's better. They left the building hand in hand. Robert insisted on taking her home, waiting with her until her mom arrived from North Carolina. On the way, they stopped at a market and bought ingredients. Robert wanted to make dinner for Sarah, for Lily, for Grandma Betty when she arrived. He wanted to show that it wasn't just words, but actions. Can you cook? Sarah asked, surprised, as he selected fresh vegetables with surprising knowledge. I taught myself. When I lived in the apartments of St. Vincent's Orphanage, before the adoption, we sometimes cooked. And then, living alone all these years, I either learned or ate takeout every day. I learned. In her apartment, Lily was ecstatic to see Robert back. You're back. Mom, he's back. I'm back, Princess. I brought ingredients to make a special dinner. Can you be my helper? Lily's eyes sparkled. I can. What are we making? Homemade pasta with fresh tomato sauce. And for dessert, brownies. Do you like chocolate? I love chocolate. Sarah watched, her heart tightening with emotion, as Robert and Lily worked in the tiny kitchen. He teaching, she learning, laughter filling the small space. He had bought a pink children's apron at the market, and Lily was taking her role as helper very seriously. Uncle Robert, am I doing it right? She asked at every step. It's perfect. You're a natural chef. Sarah took a picture with her phone, the two in the kitchen, covered in flour, smiling. It was such a domestic image, so normal, so much like family, that Sarah had to remind herself to breathe. At 9:15, the doorbell rang. Grandma Betty had arrived. Sarah opened the door for her mum, a 58-year-old woman, short grey hair, a face marked by years of hard work, but still with lively and perceptive eyes. She carried a small suitcase and a bag of homemade cheese bread. Mom! Sarah hugged her tightly, smelling the familiar scent of coconut soap and maternal love. My daughter. Grandma Betty squeezed her back, then stepped back to study Sarah's face. Are you okay? Have you been eating well? Those dark circles? I'm fine, Mom. Better now that you're here. It was then that Grandma Betty noticed Robert, who had come out of the kitchen upon hearing the doorbell. He was still wearing the apron. He had bought one for himself, too, and was clearly nervous. Mom, Sarah began, this is Robert Allen. Robert, my mom, Betty Johnson. Grandma Betty's eyes narrowed, assessing the man in front of her. Tall, handsome, clearly wealthy from his quality casual clothing, standing in her daughter's kitchen, wearing an apron and covered in flour. Robert Allen, she repeated. Sarah's boss. Yes, ma'am. And someone who cares a lot about your daughter and granddaughter. It's a pleasure to meet you. He extended his hand. Grandma Betty shook his hand, but did not release her evaluative gaze. You're cooking dinner at my daughter's house, on a Sunday night, wearing an apron. Yes, ma'am. Sarah had a tough day. I thought I could help. Grandma! Lily came running from the kitchen. You're here! And look, Uncle Robert is teaching, me how to make real pasta, from scratch, and brownies too. Grandma Betty picked her granddaughter up, but her eyes remained on Robert, weighing, measuring, judging. Is that so? And you two are friends? It was Sarah who answered, opting for honesty. Mum, we are getting to know each other, more than friends. And before you ask, no, he doesn't know about Robert Johnson yet. Or rather, he knows now because he was with me when I got the call yesterday. And you stayed? Grandma Betty asked directly to Robert. Found out there's ex-drama, possible legal issues, complications, and you stayed. I did, Robert replied without hesitation, holding her gaze, and I will continue to stay. If you allow me, I would like to better explain my intentions towards your daughter and granddaughter. But first, he smiled shyly, the pasta is almost ready, and I hated to let it burn. Can I finish dinner and we can talk while we eat? Grandma Betty continued to observe him for a few more seconds, then something softened in her face. You may, but afterward, you and I are going to have a little chat, and don't think I'll go easy just because you can cook and are handsome. Robert let out a nervous laugh. I wouldn't expect anything less from Sarah's mum. She got her strength from somewhere. She got it from me, Grandma Betty said with fierce pride, and if you are truly interested in her, you will find that Johnson women are not for the weak. Grandma! Lily pulled attention. He's not weak. He's strong and nice, and brought a gift for me, and makes Mom smile, and is going to stay with us. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Lily, who seemed not to understand why the adults had become so serious. He's going to stay, right, Mom? The girl asked, vulnerability rising in her voice. He won't leave like the other Robert. Sarah knelt in front of her daughter. My love, he will do his best to stay, but adults, sometimes things are complicated. Lily, Robert also knelt, coming to her level. I'm going to make you a promise. I will try very, very hard to stay, and if one day it doesn't work out, it won't be because I don't like you or your mom. It will just be because sometimes people don't fit, even when they want to. But while I'm here, I will be the best friend I can be to both of you. Can you accept that promise? Lily thought seriously for a moment. That maturity she shouldn't have to have at 5 years old. Can I have a hug? Hugs seal promises. Robert pulled her into a tight embrace, and Sarah saw tears in his eyes when Lily whispered something in his ear that Sarah didn't hear, but it made him hold the girl even tighter. Grandma Betty watched the whole scene in silence, and when Sarah looked at her mother, she saw tears as well. The older woman nodded approvingly, a silent but significant approval. They had dinner together, the four of them, around the small kitchen table. The pasta was perfect, the sauce delicious, the brownies a total hit for dessert. They talked about Asheville, about Sarah's childhood, about Robert growing up in an orphanage, about plans to legally protect Lily. At 11 o'clock at night, when Robert finally said goodbye, Grandma Betty pulled him aside in the hallway. "My daughter has been through a lot," she said quietly. "She trusted once and was shattered. She's giving you a second chance with her heart, and that's rare, precious. Don't waste it. And most importantly," she looked at him with that intensity that only mothers can, "don't hurt my granddaughter. She has already grown up without a father. If you're going to be in her life, you need to be sure, because she will get attached, she will love you. And if you disappear, you will break a piece of her that may never heal completely." "I understand, Grandma Betty, and you can be sure. I don't make promises I don't intend to keep. I will protect them. Both. With everything I have." Grandma Betty studied him for one more long moment, then nodded. "Then welcome to the Johnson family. We may be small in number, but we are big in loyalty, and now you are part of that." Robert walked down the building stairs, the elevator was broken, with a smile on his face and hope in his heart. In the car, he texted Sarah, "Did I pass your mum's test?" The response came quickly. "You did. She approved you. She said any man who cooks homemade pasta and can handle her interrogation without sweating can't be completely bad. That's a compliment coming from her." Robert laughed, typing back, "I'm honored. Sleep well. Tomorrow we start the fight. Together." "Together," Sarah replied, and that word carried more weight and promise than any vow. The following weeks were an emotional roller coaster. Robert Johnson, true to his word of causing trouble, filed a formal request for visitation rights through a lawyer in mid-June. The notification arrived in a brown envelope, cold legal words describing how he has always maintained interest in the well-being of the minor and sought to establish a healthy paternal bond, documented lies that made Sarah tremble with anger. But she was not alone. Anna responded with heavy artillery, extensive documentation proving 6 years of complete abandonment, absence of any child support, medical and school history entirely funded by Sarah, witness statements about her dedication as a mother. More importantly, she attached a request for retroactive child support amounting to $250,000. 6 years of support he never provided. "He will back down," Anna said in a strategy meeting at her office. "Men like him usually just want to cause trouble. When they see it will cost real money, they disappear again." She was right. 2 weeks later, Robert Johnson's lawyer sent a settlement proposal. He would give up any visitation claims in exchange for Sarah not pursuing retroactive child support. Basically, he wanted to disappear without financial consequences. Sarah signed the agreement without hesitation. She didn't want his money. She never did. She just wanted him to stay away from her daughter. And she achieved exactly that. The document was formalized at the notary's office with an explicit clause stating that he waived any future paternal rights. Lily was legally protected. "Is it over?" Sarah asked Anna when the final papers were signed in July. "It's over. He can't bother you anymore. And if he tries, there's this document showing that he voluntarily gave up any rights." Sarah left that office, feeling as if a gigantic weight had been lifted off her shoulders. For the first time in months, she could breathe completely. Throughout this period, Robert Allen was her anchor. He attended every meeting with lawyers that Sarah allowed, brought coffee on particularly tough days, made simple dinners at her apartment when she was too tired to cook, played with Lily, giving Sarah precious moments of rest. But he also respected boundaries. He never tried to solve everything for her, never took control, just was there as a genuine partner. At work, they made their relationship official at the beginning of June. Robert called a board meeting, explained the situation transparently, and implemented a protocol where Sarah would report directly to the VP of HR instead of him, eliminating any direct conflict of interest. Some board members frowned, but they couldn't argue. The relationship was consensual between adults, and all ethical protocols were being followed. Office gossip exploded, of course. Sarah heard whispers, felt stares, read between the lines in seemingly neutral emails. But there was also surprising support. Patricia organized a lunch with other female employees who expressed admiration for Sarah's courage in not hiding the relationship. Valerie from logistics sent a card saying, "You deserve to be happy. Don't let anyone ruin this." Even Carla Thompson, her former boss, offered genuine congratulations. Veronica, Robert's executive assistant, was transferred to another department due to restructuring. Sarah never knew exactly what happened, but Robert vaguely mentioned that some people have difficulty respecting appropriate professional boundaries, and left it at that. July turned into August, then September. The New York winter gave way to an early spring. Sarah and Robert established a routine. Dinners during the week alternating between her apartment, simple, homey, with Lily, and his penthouse, more sophisticated but increasingly cozy as she left little personal touches. A photo here, a cushion there, humanizing that space. Weekends were for the three of them. Parks, museums, movies, the zoo, or simply lounging at home watching children's films. Lily flourished. The daycare teacher commented at the parent-teacher meeting in August that the girl was more confident, more participative, drawing complete families now. Always 3 figures, always smiling. When Sarah saw the drawings, her heart tightened with emotion and gratitude. "She's happy," Grandma Betty observed during a visit in September, sipping coffee in the living room while Lily slept. "Happier than I've ever seen. And you too, dear. You look radiant." Sarah smiled, looking at Robert, who was in the kitchen washing dishes. He insisted on always helping, never treating her home like a hotel where he was served. "I'm happy, Mum. Scarily happy. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." "Maybe it won't drop," Grandma Betty said wisely. "Maybe you've finally found someone who deserves you, and he clearly knows the gift he has." In October, on Lily's 6th birthday, Robert organized a surprise party in the building's party room. He paid the condo fee and decorated everything with a warrior princess theme, complete with inflatable castles, face painting, a magician, and a bountiful table of sweets and snacks. He invited Lily's daycare friends, Grandma Betty, and other neighbors from Sarah's building, as well as Robert's friends who already had children for Lily to play with. When Lily entered the decorated room and saw everything, she was speechless. "Is this for me? All of this? All for you, Princess," Robert knelt in front of her, "because you deserve to celebrate being amazing." Lily hugged him tightly, whispering, "You're my favorite prince." Sarah saw tears in his eyes. That vulnerability he showed more and more as he felt secure. He hugged Lily back, kissing the top of her head, and Sarah mentally captured that moment. Pure, genuine, perfect. At the end of the party, when Lily was so exhausted she fell asleep in Sarah's lap, the guests had already left, and only the 3 of them remained. Robert said, "Can I say something?" "Of course." Sarah adjusted Lily more comfortably, the girl murmuring something unintelligible in her sleep. "These last 6 months have been the best of my life. I know it's very quickly, I know we have time, but I need you to know. I love you, Sarah. I love Lily. I love this family we've built. And He paused, nervous in a way Sarah had never seen before. "I want more. I want both of you in my life permanently, not just weekends and dinners. I want to wake up with you every day. I want to take Lily to school. I want to be a real family, not just us pretending we live separately for formality." Sarah's heart raced. Are you asking me to move in together?" "I am. I know it's scary. I know it's a big step. But Sarah..." He took her free hand, the other still holding sleeping Lily. I know I'm not Lily's biological father, but I want to be the dad who chooses to stay, who chooses to wake up in the middle of the night when she has a nightmare, who chooses to go to school meetings, who chooses to be present for every birthday, every graduation, every important moment. If you let me, if Lily accepts when she wakes up and we ask her tomorrow. Sarah felt tears falling, but they were tears of complete happiness. Are you sure? Because Lily comes as a package. Sleepless nights, toddler tantrums, real responsibility. Sarah, he gently interrupted her, I grew up without family. I spent 38 years of my life not knowing what it was like to truly belong to someone. You and Lily gave me that. You gave me a home. Why wouldn't I? Be sure. What if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work? Then we deal with it together, just like we've dealt with everything so far. But love, I don't think it will go wrong. I think it's finally going very, very right. Sarah kissed him, careful not to wake Lily, but full of emotion, of promise, of love she could no longer deny or be afraid to name. I love you too. I think I've loved you since that day you apologized and offered the promotion. Or maybe since the highway. I don't know exactly when, but I know I love you. And yes, let's move in together. Yes to everything. They talked to Lily the next day, both sitting on the floor of the little girl's room, explaining carefully. So we're going to live in Uncle Robert's big house? Lily's eyes widened. With the porch and the beautiful view? Yes, Sarah confirmed, but only if you want. Only if you feel comfortable. And Uncle Robert will live with us every day, not just on weekends? Every day, Robert confirmed. I'll take you to school in the morning. I'll be there for dinner every night. I'll be there. If you have a nightmare and need a hug? Lily was quiet, processing. Then, can I call you Dad? I don't have to if you don't want me to, but can I? Robert was visibly moved, quickly wiping his eyes. It would be the greatest honor of my life if you called me that. Dad, Lily tested the word, smiling. Dad, I like it. So, yes, I want to live with you. When are we going? Sarah laughed through her tears. How about next month? After your birthday, when school is over, we can move during the school break. But, can I decorate my room? Lily negotiated. The way I want? The way you want, Robert promised. We can go to furniture stores this weekend, choose everything together. The move happened in November, on a sunny Saturday. They didn't have much to take from Sarah's apartment. Clothes, Lily's toys, a few sentimental pieces of furniture. Grandma Betty cried as she said goodbye, making Sarah promise regular visits. Grandma Betty came from North Carolina to help, organizing everything with military efficiency. The apartment was transformed. Lily's room, previously an impersonal guest room, became a child's paradise with vibrant colors, a castle-shaped canopy bed, a bookshelf full of books, an art corner with an easel and drawing materials, even a chalkboard wall where she could draw directly on the wall. The master bedroom now had photos. Sarah and Robert, the three of them together, Lily alone, captured memories starting to fill that space that had once been so empty. The living room gained toys organized in pretty boxes. The kitchen had a Peppa Pig mug next to the crystal glasses, and the porch had a small pink bicycle elegantly leaning against the wall. The apartment maintained elegance but gained life, organized chaos, visible love in every corner. On their first official night living together, after putting Lily to sleep in her new room, Sarah and Robert sat on the porch with glasses of wine, looking at New York lit up. Is this real? Sarah asked, resting her head on his shoulder. Sometimes I wake up and think I'm going to find out it was all a dream. It's real, he assured her, kissing the top of her head. As real as that night on the highway. As real as your daughter yelling at me in the office hallway. As real as every choice we made to get here. "I never imagined it could be like this," Sarah admitted. "After Robert Johnson, I built walls so high. I swore I would never let anyone in again. And then you showed up with your broken car and your hidden vulnerability and just knocked everything down without even trying. You also knocked down my walls. I spent 38 years believing I wasn't capable of family, of real connection. That Saul was right and I was only good for business. And then I met you, a warrior, a devoted mother, an incredible woman, and your extraordinary daughter, and I realized the problem was never with me. It was that I was looking in all the wrong places." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just existing together. "You know what's funny?" Sarah eventually said. "If that daycare hadn't closed for renovations, I would never have taken Lily to work. She would never have defended you. We probably would never have had that conversation that changed everything. It would have just been you being my boss and me being just another employee. Strange fate." "I don't believe in fate," Robert said thoughtfully, "but I believe that sometimes the universe puts the right people in each other's paths. My car breaking down that exact night, you passing by at that exact moment, the daycare closing, forcing you to take Lily, every little thing that brought us here. So what do you believe? I believe in choice. The universe can put people in our way, but it's us who choose to stop, choose to help, choose to take risks. You chose to stop that night on the highway. I chose to offer you the promotion. You chose to accept, chose to give a chance when you had every reason not to. We chose to fight when obstacles appeared instead of giving up. Every choice brought us here. That's more powerful than fate." Sarah turned to face him, those blue eyes she had learned to read, to trust, to love. "So I'm choosing this, choosing you, choosing us. Every day, for as long as you want me, I'm choosing. And I choose you," he replied, kissing her slowly, that kiss which was both a promise and a celebration. "I choose Lily, I choose this family. Every day, forever, I'm choosing." Months later, in March of the following year, almost exactly a year after that fateful day when Lily defended Sarah in the office, Robert organized a special dinner. He took Sarah and Lily to the same Italian restaurant where they had their first date, the Three Venices in Brooklyn. But this time Lily was with them, impeccably dressed in a pretty dress, chattering about school and friends. After dessert, Robert stood up and, to Sarah's shock, knelt beside the table. Lily let out an excited squeal. She clearly knew what was happening. "Sarah Johnson," Robert began, and there was a nervous tremor in his voice. "A year ago you stopped to help a stranger in the rain. You didn't know who I was, didn't want anything in return. You were just kind because that's who you are. Since then, every day with you and Lily has been a gift. You've taught me what family is. You've taught me that I'm capable of loving and being loved. You've taught me that home isn't a place, it's people." He pulled a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring, white gold, with a solitaire diamond, delicate yet eternal. "I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy. I want to wake up with you every day. I want to be Lily's official father, not just in my heart, but legally. I want to build a future, memories, a real family. Sarah Johnson, will you marry me?" Sarah was crying, hands covering her mouth, completely speechless. Around the restaurant, other patrons noticed what was happening, excited whispers, cell phones rising to capture the moment. "Say yes, Mom!" Lily couldn't hold back, jumping in her seat. Say yes," Sarah laughed through her tears, extending her trembling hand. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Robert slipped the ring on her finger, then stood and kissed her as the entire restaurant erupted in applause. Lily jumped from her chair and threw herself at them, creating a chaotic and perfect group hug. "Am I going to have a real dad?" Lily asked when they finally separated, looking between Sarah and Robert with cautious hope. I'm going to officially adopt you, Robert promised, lifting the girl into his arms. If you want, you'll be Lily Allen, my legally recognized daughter and everything. I want it so much. Lily hugged him tightly. I love you, Dad. I love you too, my princess, so much. The wedding took place in July, a small and intimate ceremony at a countryside venue, just close family and dear friends. Grandma Betty cried from start to finish, immense pride for her daughter who fought so hard and finally found happiness. Lily was the flower girl, scattering petals and stealing the scene with her adorable seriousness. Sarah wore a simple off-white dress, understated, elegant yet comfortable, very much her. Robert looked impeccable in a light grey suit, but it was the smile Sarah saw when she entered the ceremony that made her heart race, that genuine, vulnerable, completely in-love smile. The vows were written by them. Sarah promised to choose him every day, in good times and bad, promised to build a home full of love, promised to allow herself to be happy without guilt. Robert promised to be a partner, a father, a friend, promised never to let her face storms alone, promised to honor the gift of being part of their lives. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Lily shouted, "Finally!" making everyone laugh. The kiss was met with applause, happy tears, and absolute certainty that this was right. At the small reception afterward, they danced, first Sarah and Robert, then Robert and Lily, then the three of them together in a delightful mess of uncoordinated steps and laughter. "We did it," Sarah whispered in Robert's ear during a slow song, Lily sleeping in his arms. "Despite everything, we did it." "We did," he agreed, kissing her forehead and then the sleeping girl. "And this is just the beginning. We have a lifetime ahead." A year later, on an August morning, Sarah woke up feeling nauseous, rushing to the bathroom. Robert found her sitting on the cold bathroom floor, holding a positive pregnancy test, tears streaming down her face. "I'm pregnant," she said, her voice trembling. "We didn't plan this, we didn't expect it, and I know Lily is already enough. And if you don't want—" "Sarah," he interrupted, kneeling beside her, taking the test with trembling hands. This is amazing. It's terrifying and wonderful and perfect. We're going to have a baby. Our family is going to grow." "Are you sure?" "Because the last time I got pregnant, the father ran away and I'm not him," Robert said firmly, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I'll never be. I'm here. I'll be here for morning sickness, for ultrasounds, for delivery, for sleepless nights, for everything, I promise." They told Lily that night, now 7 years old and much more mature. The girl sat quietly processing the news, then smiled that bright smile. "Am I going to have a little brother?" "Or a little sister," Sarah corrected. "We don't know yet." "It doesn't matter. I'm going to be the big sister. I'll teach him how to draw and protect him at school and tell bedtime stories." She paused, thoughtful. "He's going to have—" "Sarah," Johnson held her daughter close, "you won't have to wait for Dad to arrive like I did, right?" Robert pulled her onto his lap. "You'll have Dad from the very beginning, just like you have now. And you always will. Both of you. Forever." "Good." Lily nodded, satisfied. "Because family sticks together. That's what you taught me." In April of the following year, Grandma Betty arrived from North Carolina to be there for the birth. When Sarah went into labor on a Tuesday morning, Robert was by her side, holding her hand, breathing with her, promising that everything was okay, that she was strong, that he was there. Thomas Allen was born at 3 in the afternoon, weighing 7 pounds and 2 ounces, crying loudly and healthily. When they placed the baby in Sarah's arms, she looked at Robert, who was openly crying, and whispered, "Look what we made." "He's perfect," Robert murmured, reverently touching the tiny head. "You both are perfect." Lily met her little brother that night, carefully climbing onto the hospital bed to get a better look, her eyes wide with wonder. "He's so small, and he has your eyes, Dad." She touched his tiny hand. "Hi, Thomas. I'm your sister Lily. I'll take care of you forever." And it was in that moment, private hospital in Manhattan, Sarah exhausted but radiant in bed, Robert sitting beside her holding the newborn, Lily gently caressing her brother, Grandma Betty taking pictures with her phone and crying tears of joy, that Sarah finally believed completely. She believed that happy endings existed. She believed that the pain of the past could be transformed into strength. She believed that it was possible to start over, rebuild, rewrite narratives. It hadn't been easy. It had been terrifying most of the time. But every choice, pulling over on the highway that rainy night, accepting the promotion, giving love a chance, risking her heart again, every choice had led to this moment. "Thank you," she said softly to Robert. "Why?" "For choosing to stay, for choosing us, for proving that not every man leaves when things get tough." Robert kissed her forehead, then Thomas's, who was sleeping in his arms. "Thank you for letting me be a part of this, for teaching me what real family is. You saved me just as much as I saved you." "So we're even," Sarah smiled. "Even," he agreed. And there, in that hospital, room filled with the scent of disinfectant and hope, a family built on courageous choices and stubborn love, Sarah Johnson Allen, the woman who almost gave up on believing in happy endings, finally rested in the knowledge that she not only found her happy ending but was living it every day. It wasn't perfect. There would be bad days, arguments, inevitable real-life challenges. But it was theirs. It was real. It was love that chose to stay, and in the end, that had always been the only thing that mattered.